Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook, People in Another World. Reincarnated Dragon, Call Me Godzilla. Chapter 41. Who are you? Sha Yuan looked at Frost Dragon and asked. You don't need to know. Ayasha stared at the black dragon in front of her, and she was amazed by the terrifying image of the other party. The body is tall, about 3 times that of ordinary whelping dragons. Moreover, it only has scales, its skin is black, its muscles and blood are red, and its horns and dorsal fin are also fused with a dangerous golden light. In addition, the black dragon has a strong sense of power and oppression, and the spines on the back are also large, in the shape of a radial sword, exuding a faint golden light, like sharp swords. Its tail is very long, and the dorsal fins at the tail can be extended together, merging together, like a terrifying sword blade. There is no doubt that it has the fighting power to crush other whelps. No wonder there will be many enemies here, leaving a group of young dragons helpless. Arrogance. Sha Yuan smiled calmly. Hearing the black dragon's speech, Ayasha also smiled suddenly. Her voice was cold. I'm not interested in you. But, you can remember my name. Ayasa Aurora Lauren. This will be the name of the dragon that defeated you, Siggers. I don't listen. Sha Yuan responded with the same tone. I don't remember the name of the mouse either. So, are you also here to break through? Your goal is this, dragon emblem, right? Quote, Ayasha spread out her palm and took out a small scale, which was the scale of the holy dragon. Tell me your plan. Sha Yuan nodded after seeing the dragon emblem. For you. Ayasha threw the dragon emblem directly, and the little mad dragon Durbas beside Sha Yuan froze for a moment, ready to catch it. But Sha Yuan soon grabbed the tail and dragged him back. The coat of arms fell directly on the ground in front of them, and then a cold force erupted, instantly freezing the surrounding area several meters away, and the coat of arms was frozen into ice sculptures. Hiss! What kind of terrifying power is this? The other young dragons gasped. It was real cold, biting cold. That's the strongest frost whelpling, Dragon Witch Ayasa. It seems that a young dragon who is good at magic recognized the terrifying existence and exclaimed the opponent's name. Like Sha Yuan, Ayasha is also a dragon for problem children. One of the two is the strongest fighter, and the other is the strongest magic. But unlike warrior dragons who need to exercise their bodies to become stronger, magic dragons are born with a lot of magic power, and magic is their means of attack. Beat me, and it's yours, Ayasha said in a calm tone, making Sha Yuan frown slightly. Too arrogant. Sha Yuan also seemed to be a little angry, so she refused, but, I refuse. I don't want to fight with a guy like you. I'm afraid I can't help but hit you too hard, severely wound you, and then cry and let you go. My parents make trouble for me. I really hate this kind of kid who can't afford to lose. After finishing speaking, Sha Yuan glanced at Guanglong shakily, who immediately stared back with a blushing face. Ayasha froze for a moment, then looked down at her ice dragon claws, and murmured, No. I wouldn't do that. How do I know if you will do that? From your tone, I know that you must be a spoiled and self-willed young lady. I don't know what it means to respect others. After all, I am also the master of the arena. You haven't even passed my little brother's level, so why do you ask me to agree to your challenge? Sha Yuan attacked sharply. It must be because no one has ever rejected this guy's offer, that's why he is so arrogant. No, that's not the case. A trace of pain flashed in Ayasha's eyes. She was not born with such a sharp tone. It's because she hasn't communicated with other young dragons for a long time, and her parents don't allow herself to speak too many words. They think that will make them less dignified and easy to be approached by other young dragons, which is too unruly. To put it succinctly, Isha has always been asked to do this by her parents. But now, the black dragon in front of him must think that he is a troublesome guy, and instead refuses to fight him. What should I do? The young and innocent Ayasha didn't seem to have the complicated idea of beating them together. Because it was the first time she was rejected by other whelps, she had no idea what to do next. Why did I hit the mark? I don't like guys like you. Ayasha's eyes showed hostility, as if she couldn't handle the black dragon in front of her, and she wanted to use a strong one. Could it be that you became angry and wanted to sneak attack me? I just finished fighting with these young dragons, and now I am exhausted. If I am attacked, I may be defeated soon. Hey, the so-called magic, the strongest young dragon in the family, it turns out to be a despicable little dragon. Sha Yuan's words made Ayesa stunned in place, and the hostility that had originally arisen disappeared in an instant, turning into a stupefaction. She was completely dumbfounded. For no reason, he was scolded and treated as a despicable guy. It's like pouring dirty water on a pure and proud ice dragon. Black dragons are indeed an evil race, too bad. Hey, you guys, don't you think she's too much? She provoked other dragons when they first met, and even took advantage of the weakness of the other dragon to throw the dragon's crest with attack magic. If you are really deceived, isn't it dangerous? Sha Yuan started to create public opinion and let other whelps judge. The other young dragons didn't dare to resist the strong black dragon, so they could only falter and nod their heads, but in fact, they all hoped that the frost dragon would beat up the hateful black dragon. But he dared not speak out, so now he has no choice but to respond with, "Ah, yes, yes, yes. Boss, isn't it a little too much?" At this time, the little phantom dragon Exelufu tugged at Sha Yuan's tail, and said unbearably, "Isha, she was made to cry by you. Crying counts as time." Even so, when Sha Yuan looked at Yi Aisha, who had tear-stained ice crystals in her pupils, the other party was staring at her with rather aggrieved eyes, as if saying that she would never forgive you. Afterwards, a wave of extremely ice magic power gradually dissipated, and Sha Yuan's words aroused the other party's strong desire to fight. "Forget it. Since that's the case, Dilbaz, Shaloof, let's go together." After Sha Yuan finished speaking, he gave the command to charge. He just ran 2 steps away before turning his head and looking back. "Why don't you move?" No, boss. I can't move." The mad dragon Dilbaz bowed his head bitterly. His feet had been frozen by frost at some point, and he couldn't move at all. Me too. At this time, the magic dragon Shilufu also had her legs frozen, making it difficult to move. But Sha Yuan turned his head and sensed an extremely cold storm rising behind him, accompanied by a smog-like white air-conditioning ice fog rising from the proving ground. If it is covered by ice fog, that place will form a freeze, frozen by countless frosts. Wait, are you serious? Sha Yuan came back to her senses and looked at the frost dragon Ayesa floating in midair. The eyes of the other party were full of grief and hostility. After being wronged, she just wanted to freeze the thing in front of her. This time, Sha Yuan felt an unprecedented crisis, second only to that of the Spider Queen. Frost, freeze, high-ranking ice dragon magic, snow breath, rhyme tide. Quote. Ayesha flew into the air suddenly, and as she chanted the dragon language, a huge magic circle of hoarfrost spread out under her body, and like a dragon's breath, she released extremely low-temperature breath towards the bottom, centering on the shot point, continuously generating huge the wave of ice spikes froze outward. Is this ice-type high-level magic? Looking up, Sha Yuan saw ice blowing from the ground in front of her. An ice rink formed around the ground where the other party's breath landed, and if you entered it, you would be deprived of body temperature in an instant, gradually frozen, and your freedom of movement would be restricted. It's so cold, so sleepy. A tiredness from inside surged into Sha Yuan's body, and the huge frozen hoarfrost field quickly covered hundreds of meters around, and all the young dragons in the field were frozen in an instant, without exception. None survived. Ah, boss. Together with the mad dragon Dilbaz and the phantom dragon Ziluf, they were not spared, and were quickly frozen into an ice sculpture. I shouldn't have made her angry. Sha Yuan regretted it. He saw the hoarfrost covering him, and quickly hid to the side, but he still couldn't escape the freezing range. A layer of frost quickly spread over his body, freezing him into a frozen sculpture. So cold. In an instant, Sha Yuan lost the ability to move, his eyes were blindingly pale, and his whole body was shrouded in a biting chill. This cold current invaded his bones and muscles, and the magic power in his body was suppressed so that it could not flow, as if it had also been frozen, and he could not use his strength at all. It even made him feel that his brain was about to freeze, and his thoughts gradually fell into a dark abyss. No, how could I fall down in such an embarrassing way? Sha Yuan yelled unwillingly in her heart, trying hard to keep her mind clear. Heat, I need heat. Only fire from the inside can dissolve the freeze. By the way, the internal radiation is like using breath normally, but this time it is to release the high temperature in the body. Internal radiation is also one of Brother's signature skills, which is the prerequisite for opening the Red Lotus mode. Its function is to instantly ignite the atomic furnace in the body, causing it to burst out with terrifying power. But now that Sha Yuan doesn't have an atomic furnace, he can barely maintain the last bit of sanity, desperately recalling the magic power fluctuations when he condensed the breath of lightning white hot light. In the past, as long as he can mobilize his mental power to simulate this fluctuation, he can successfully release internal radiation. If he did this normally, he would be seriously injured without dying, because this move is a self-harm skill, but now Sha Yuan has no choice, he must try desperately. Boom! Just as Sha Yuan was trying to recall the magic fluctuations of the white-hot light breath, his body suddenly seemed to regain the flow of temperature, and his consciousness was shaken. His blood and flesh rose, and he felt that he had regained control of his body. Zzz. The ice crystals on Sha Yuan's body cracked little by little, and then his frozen body shook violently, shaking off all the ice, and the scales all over his body made noises like a hot iron, quickly evaporated the water vapor. System, you have learned. Internal radiation. Your core temperature increases by 100%, your breathing power increases by 100%, and you enter the dangerous mode. System, it is detected that the host is in a state of hypothermia, the core temperature has risen to 50.46 reduced and the danger mode has been released. From the moment Sha Yuan was frozen to the moment when he exploded with internal radiation to relieve the crisis, it actually only took a few seconds. The battle situation didn't change much at this time. His body temperature rose instantly, but it quickly dropped to a safe area because the outside temperature was too low, so the internal radiation didn't cause too much damage. At most, his physical strength was slightly weakened. That's all. But perhaps it was unexpected that Sha Yuan could break free from the ice so easily. The little female dragon Ayasha in the sky was shocked, showing some signs of being in a hurry. Sha Yuan, was famous in the first life, and almost fell into the hands of the little female dragon. Raising his head, Sha Yuan's eyes gradually became fierce, flashing bright golden light. His mouth began to burst out with lightning, and before the internal radiation was over, the tip of the tail began to rise like arcs of golden light, and then spread to the back and finally along the dorsal fin of the nape of the neck. Dazzling golden glitter. When the sky is thunderous and chaotic, the dust will burn, and the scorching wind will blow the land. When it comes, its power will be infinite. Its name is the Black Dragon Mirabo Riesla. The breath of the high-ranking holy dragon, lightning white hot light. Quote. Sha Yuan doesn't know dragon language magic, but he needs to hide his nirvana. Therefore, Sha Yuan created a spell that sounded majestic with all his life's knowledge. While chanting, he began to accumulate power in his body, and finally let go of his mouth, and then fired all the magic power in the direction of the frost dragon. Erupts a beam of Baijin-colored flames that pierces the darkened sky. Don't want. From the perspective of the ice dragon Ayesa, the black dragon below seemed to be preparing a rather terrifying magic. She was in a hurry and did not care to avoid it, and began to summon the ice armor to enter the battle state. 5 places including the head, front legs, hind legs, wings, and tail are wrapped in ice armor. And just after Yisha completed this series of manipulations, boom, the powerful flow of magic power scattered the air, and the thorny dragon's breath mixed with lightning knocked Ayasha's entire body into the air. With a roaring explosion in the sky, golden flames fell from the sky and offset each other with the ice armor, creating a huge heat of water vapor. At this moment, Ayasha's ice armor was destroyed, and the power of lightning made her fall into a paralyzed state, falling from the sky, and crashing to the ground. But before Yisha had time to resist, before she got up, she saw a berserk black Tyrannosaurus-like monster running towards her. Her body seemed to have been hit hard, and she felt dizzy. She felt as if she had been knocked out and landed in a parabola at high altitude, but after that, she lost consciousness. Boom! Ayasha was knocked into the air, and stopped after rolling on the ground for more than 10 meters. When the black dragon approached and was about to make up the knife, he saw Yisha with her eyelids tightly closed, lying motionless on the ground, her breath becoming extremely weak. Did you faint now? Sha Yuan scratched his head. He thought there would be a fierce battle waiting for him. It seems that he is still better than himself. Sure enough, the magic dragon just fell down after just 2 hits. Although Ayasa's body is covered with a powerful ice armor, it was melted a lot by the breath of lightning's white-hot light, and coupled with the violent impact, even with defense strengthening, she couldn't defend against it. Having said that, but if you look closely, she is just a baby dragon with a body length of only 6 meters, and the height when standing upright is only about 3 meters, so petite. To be honest, I'm almost at my limit. After the 2 breath skills were used up, Sha Yuan sat on the ground with a wry smile, feeling the fatigue from the inside out. Fortunately, he won. Although she won in terms of physique, seeing that Ayasha didn't choose to dodge in the last move, but resisted her breathing forcefully, it is enough to show that she was stunned, thinking that this move was a magic covering all areas. Otherwise, as a flying dragon, if Ayasha doesn't fight with her, she really can't do anything. It seems that the air-to-air method needs to be strengthened. What a bad matchup. Looking around, all the young dragons have been frozen and frozen. If they are left alone, they will die. Sha Yuan sighed, and had to support his body to move the ice sculpture like baby dragons to an area with sufficient heat source, and set up a firewood to roast the frost nearby, which can be regarded as saving their lives. Go back in time. There is a little guy who has reached the final end of the trial. Quote. On the ground, the old rock dragon Tudnik slowly opened his eyes, turned his head and said to the other dragon mentors. Hurry up, how long is it? Instructor Blue Dragon gave a sound of surprise, and said somewhat inconceivably. But he didn't seem to go straight all the way, but chose to stay. When I observed it before, he was still hovering near my lair. Old Yanlong shook his head, expressing helplessness. What the hell is that guy thinking? He can end the trial now, and he can also become one of the fastest hatchlings in history. Instructor Blue Dragon stared dumbfoundedly at the distant trial exit, but there was still no movement. It always felt like he was doing something that we couldn't understand. The old rock dragon scratched the rock beard on his chin with his claws, and said in a low voice. Respect the choice of the young dragons. The purpose of this trial is to train them how to be independent. The number of dragon emblems is limited. In order to pass the level, what will they choose to do? The mentor of the big red dragon waved his claws and said to the old rock dragon. It's interesting if you don't know. We haven't seen such an interesting situation for a long time. The blue dragon instructor echoed from the side. Correct. Except for the dragon mentor who was observing the trial of the young dragon, the other adult dragons suddenly thought of something. They looked at each other, fell silent for a moment, and suddenly proposed a message. Gu Luo Daemon, have you heard the latest news about King Killer? Okay, I know. The big red dragon closed its eyes, unable to see its specific expression, but simply nodded as a response. Quote. Gu Luo Daemon, you don't have to blame yourself too much. We didn't expect such a scene to happen. All in all, you don't have to worry about the Dragon King's blame. The home of the dragon, even the Dragon King has no right to privately. Having said that, the giant dragon stopped. It's just that I'm more worried. Where did the King Killer go? I heard that the apostles of the Dragon King have been quite busy recently, and it is possible that the number of apostles of the Dragon King who have arrived at the trial of young dragons this time will not be more than before. Quote. The blue dragon mentor next to him responded with a very reluctant expression. Who knows? The big red dragon instructor opened his eyes and said, but looking at its expression, it seemed that he had guessed something vaguely. Thinking optimistically, the trial of the young dragons is a very important ceremony. The Dragon Kings will probably send other subordinates, such as the Dragon Guards. So the remaining young dragons should still have a chance. Compared to these, I'm really curious about who the little guy who got the dragon emblem and still chooses to stay in the trial cave is. Instructor De Honglong thought for a while and replied. This, you should know better than us. That little guy didn't follow the rules at all, and he did a lot of troublesome things. The old rock dragon said in a low voice. Sha Yuan was trained by the big red dragon Gu Luo Daemon himself. Naturally, he knows what kind of character that guy is, and he must have a general understanding of what he can do now. After all, the big red dragon with Sha Yuan was quite messed up during the long way test. In other words, it really is that guy. The big red dragon said loudly. It's such a headache, can't you save me some trouble? There are too many problem children now. I agree with that. The blue dragon tutor held her head, and she seemed to recall a question about the young dragon, do you still remember the new generation of young dragon of the ice dragon family recently? Her name is Ayasha, and the talent she has shown so far is quite amazing. No way, elemental dragons are inherently very powerful. Other high-ranking dragons develop their strength after adulthood, and become stronger as they get to the later stage. But the elemental dragon is an exception. The elemental dragon is from the young dragon stage to the adulthood is ridiculously strong. Hey, when creating the species of dragon, the dragon gods are really eccentric. Quote. Hearing the emotion of the old rock dragon, the big red dragon couldn't help but fell silent. By the way, to Nick, have you sensed which trial cave Ayasa went to? Instructor Blue Dragon couldn't help asking curiously. She went to the trial of the earth. When the old Yanlong said this, he was slightly taken aback. It's in the same trial cave as the black dragon who made trouble. This situation is not good. The big red dragon who knew the situation raised his head. His eyes were full of astonishment. He looked at the deep pit and growled. I hope they don't fight over it. I don't want the kid to never recover from it. However, after Sha Yuan and Ayasha met, they did have a fight. But the result of the battle was beyond everyone's expectations. The one who fell was not Sha Yuan, but Yi Aisha, and Sha Yuan did not suffer from a setback. On the contrary, Yi Aisha experienced the only and first defeat in her life as if she had been hit. And it was a fiasco. In the rock cave, the ice dragon Ayasha slowly opened her eyes, her consciousness still in a hazy state. She looked up at the top of the space, her wings spread out and spread flat on the ground. Oh, it doesn't hurt anymore. Aisha noticed that the soreness from all over her body had disappeared. She lowered her gaze and found that the fractures under the shattered ice armor had recovered, and the broken scales after being hit by the lightning white hot light were also gone. It has grown, and the physical state has returned to the moment of full health. Why? Yisha touched the place where she was hit, but she felt as if she was telling the truth that the previous fierce battle was fake, and there was no trace left. Are you awake? I've treated you for you. Otherwise, relying on your self-healing power alone, I'm afraid it will take some time to wake up. A childish and lovely voice came from the side, and Ayasha opened her eyes wide in an instant, turned over and lay down on the ground, looking ahead vigilantly. Relax, it's me, Silph. In front of Ayasha, the phantom dragon Silph with a light blue body was looking at Ayasha with excited eyes, and said. You, Silph. Ayasha narrowed her eyes, looked at the little magic dragon from bottom to top, and said in surprise. What are you talking about? It wasn't that big originally, but after being with the boss for about a month, I felt that my body has evolved accordingly. Now it is clearly a young dragon, but it looks like a young dragon in the growth stage. Quote. Shi Lufu looked at her paws and body, with Shu Fu's expression on her face. Why do you want to save me? What is your purpose? Withdrawing her gaze, Ayasha looked at Silph in front of her. Aren't we classmates? Ayasha is really cold, and I wanted to say that I want to be friends with you. Silph looked downcast, as if she had been hit. Sirif, is it a phantom dragon? Ayasha was silent for a few seconds, then looked up at the little magic dragon. That's right. Didn't Ayasha pay attention to it all the time? That's right. Ayasha has always been high above her, and she never wastes her attention on other young dragons, hey. Quote. Hearing Shalouf's words, Ayasha's pupils contracted violently in an instant, her body tensed, she clenched her claws, and she opened her mouth. I can, my friend. Shalouf, the phantom dragon is a high-ranking dragon, my father said, yes. Seeing Yisha's actions, Exalufu was taken aback, blinked and said, would you like to be my friend? Yeah, father said, high-ranking dragon species, yes. Ayasha quickly regained her composure, without showing any emotion, and replied quietly. In that case, will you be friends with the boss? Exalufu said with a smile on her face. Boss, it's the black dragon who fought with you. By the way, he is actually a holy dragon, and his father is Mr. Leonard. No. Ayasha thought for a while, and a sentence from her parents came to her mind, the Leonard family is all freaks, don't get involved with them. So she said no. Is that really the case? Exalufu gave a wry smile, and she sighed. Actually, when I first proposed to treat you, the boss not only did not object, but also supported him very much. He is not as bad as you imagined. Although, it is true there is a little bit, but I think it is still within the acceptable range, and there is still a big difference from the real dragon. However, before Shaluf finished speaking, footsteps came from near the entrance of the cave. Silaf, I heard you speak ill of me as soon as I came. In the cave hall, Sha Yuan came over and confronted Yisha, but compared with the heavy atmosphere around Yisha, the expression on Sha Yuan's face seemed relaxed. Want to fight with me? With me who is in full condition now? Seeing Yi Aisha's actions, Sha Yuan asked quietly without showing any reaction. Are you so confident? Maybe I will overthrow you again. Sha Yuan exuded a fierce aura. In this kind of cave, Ayesa couldn't fly at all, and she would be crushed to the ground before she could prepare magic. This is not self-confidence. Your talent may be very strong, but compared to me, unless it is far beyond me, victory is a matter of course. You must know that there are dragons outside the dragon, and there is a sky beyond the sky. Even in among the dragon kings, your lineage is not the only one that has dragon kings, there is also a dragon emperor among the black dragons. Sha Yuan explained in a flat tone as if stating a certain fact. So, even so, do you still want to fight with me? Let me state in advance, I don't have any thoughts about you. How strong you are, how noble you are, what does it matter to me? I just want to get out of this ghost quickly place, that's all. Sha Yuan said to Yi Aisha, who was ready to go. Ayesa was silent for a while, and slowly lowered her claws and the condensed magic power of ice. That's right, let's have a good talk, little girl from the ice dragon family. The corners of Sha Yuan's mouth opened slightly, as if she was satisfied with Yisha's actions. You know me. Ayesha stared at Sha Yuan's face. Obviously the other person was only in the posture of a young dragon, but it gave her a majestic aura. After all, I'm not acting like a dragon. Shaluf has already told me about you. But it's nothing unusual. My father also said that the elemental dragons all turned their nostrils up to the sky. They look down on one and the other with a stinking face. And for the sake of pure blood, they usually only intermarry within the clan. Although most other high-ranking dragon species will do the same, only the elemental dragon attaches more importance to blood than humans' imagination. Sha Yuan seems to have remembered something very interesting. The elemental dragon is probably equivalent to the noble status among human beings. Have no idea what you're talking about. Ayesha looked at Sha Yuan, who kept talking to herself, and said in a daze. Then, let's change the way. Ayesa, right, what is your purpose of becoming stronger? Sha Yuan put away the smile on her face, and asked in a serious tone. Feeling Sha Yuan's aura, Ayesha knew that the other party was serious, and if she didn't answer well, it might affect the future fate of both parties. I want to become a more powerful existence. Ayesha opened her mouth, and spit out the cold air slightly. Snort. Hearing Yi Aisha's words, Sha Yuan snorted lightly and said nothing else. It's true, I've felt forced since I was born, but I've really moved forward with this goal. Ayesha looked up, and met Sha Yuan's eyes from bottom to top. Forehead. Sha Yuan froze for a moment, feeling a little speechless for a while. I have always wondered why there are dragons blindly pursuing strength. Usually, the final outcome of such giant dragons is, born of strength, and die of strength. Born by strength, die by strength. Ayesha murmured this sentence. She didn't know that Sha Yuan also heard this sentence from the mouth of the big red dragon mentor, as if she was regretting the life of a certain dragon. Then what is your purpose of becoming stronger? Ayesha asked seriously. Me, I didn't seek to become stronger. I just ate and drank normally. I got up a little earlier than other young dragons, went to bed later, and ran with self-discipline every day. Maybe it's because I was born with excellent genes and talents, so I was more than ordinary. The hatchlings will grow bigger. Sha Yuan explained in a serious manner, but seeing Ayesha's expression, she quickly added. Of course, I'm born with poor magic power and can't use magic freely. This is my flaw as a holy dragon. But I don't feel inferior to this, but I am very proud of it. Since I can't use magic, I will exercise my body. You can also become stronger. The purpose of becoming stronger is to pass on the family line in the future. Do you believe it? In my previous life, well, in the memory of inheritance, human beings need beautiful houses and carriages to marry wives. I am picky about my appearance. For giant dragons, strength is all capital, so I have to work hard so that the future generations of holy dragons will continue. Is this guy changing his way to praise himself? Ayasha stared blankly at Sha Yuan, who kept explaining, and chose to remain silent. She didn't seem to understand why she had to take an ant-like weak race like humans as an example, but the point of marrying a wife and having children didn't make much sense to her. Not to mention she's still a whelp, and she's often haunted by the adoring gazes of other male whelps. Of course, in terms of status, those male young dragons are like toads, and they dream of having some relationship with the higher-ranking dragon species. Boring. After a while, Ayasha replied abruptly. Boring. You actually said it was boring. Well, there is indeed a little bit of it. But my example is not obvious enough. You look at me, black holy dragon species, have you seen it? Although I don't care about other people's eyes at all, but if I am worthless and weak like an ordinary young dragon, not to mention the reputation of my entire family, my two younger sisters will be discriminated against by other dragons. Therefore, it is not entirely for myself that I become stronger. Having said that, Sha Yuan looked up at the ceiling. His eyes seemed to penetrate layers of rocks to reach the sky. I don't think any guy will think that he will be the one who fails. Could it be that if you lose to me, Ayasha, you will lose? Will you lose your self-esteem, so that you can't get up when you fall? Listen, no one thinks that they will lose before they are really facing the despair of defeat. But losing once does not mean that you will always lose. Your end point should not be here, but a more grand and vast sky. Ayasha's ears moved, and she looked at Sha Yuan in disbelief. That's right, she did doubt her own talent. After all, she experienced the first failure in Longsheng. Why, are you telling me this? Ayasha suddenly looked at Sha Yuan seriously and asked. Well, what if I don't want to be your enemy? Miss Yisha, you are very strong, and you are destined to become a powerful dragon in the future. And I am just an ordinary holy dragon species, although a little mutated. But I don't want to create a strong enemy for myself in the future, especially the ice attribute giant dragon that makes me feel troublesome. If you can't be friends, please also hope that you will not embarrass me in the future. In case I get into trouble one day, I hope you will read it, old love, you can turn a blind eye to it. Sha Yuan thought for a while, then said glibly. He is very smart. For a genius like Ayasha who has no one in his eyes, he must be beaten hard, but he can't be beaten too much, so that the other party will hate him. If it was the kind of giant dragon that couldn't reason, Sha Yuan wouldn't be so nice. He had to let the other party see the power of convincing people with reason. But like Ayasha, with Exelufu on the sidelines, Sha Yuan can probably understand that she is actually a sensible ice dragon, and she should not go to extremes. Well, what's your name? Brother Reese Mirabeau Reese. Caught off guard by Sha Yuan's sudden change, Ayasha froze for a while before responding. Brother Reese. Well, I have decided, I will definitely surpass you in the future. Let me move forward with the goal of surpassing you. Ayasha stretched out her left paw to rest on Sha Yuan's hand, and declared solemnly. The feelings I just said are all in vain, right? Sha Yuan looked at Ayasha's eyes full of confidence, and after he no longer had any hostility, but simply wanted to surpass himself, he didn't say anything more. Since this is your decision, I have no choice but to accept it reluctantly. Sha Yuan thought for a while and responded. So, what is the relationship between myself and Yisha? Enemy, or friend? It should be in the middle, a competitive relationship that is neither an enemy nor a friend. Even if one day she was surpassed by Yisha, she probably wouldn't deliberately make it difficult for herself, but she didn't know if she would feel lonely. Well, the premise is that one day. Because Sha Yuan also wanted face, and his mutant dragon cells did not allow him to lose to other giant dragons in evolution. Therefore, Sha Yuan was a little worried about Ayasa, hoping that this guy would not be hit by her future self. The trial cave can finally come to an end. However, when Sha Yuan was about to bring the 3 dragon emblems to the final destination together with the mad dragon Durbas and the phantom dragon Siluf, he caught a small fast-moving creature in the cave from the corner of his eye. The guy ran towards him. He had no intention of defending, or in other words, there was absolutely no need to be so cautious. Boom! Still that little white spider. But this time the result was completely different. When the little white spider touched him, it was ejected and fell on the wall. Is this a small inferior spider monster? It looks quite smooth and soft in appearance, with several black round spots on its back, 8 monocular eyes, tentacles-like limbs on its head, and its survival skills are only fangs and spider silk. There were also many spider monsters in the trial cave, but they were all eliminated by Sha Yuan one by one, and this kind of white mutated spider monster was quite rare, but Sha Yuan was not interested in it, and that little guy, when he was in a daze, he also ran away in a hurry, and a trace of fear flashed humanly in his eyes. On the ground, that little guy is finally planning to move towards the end of the trial. Quote, the moment Sha Yuan stepped into the final area, the old rock dragon on the ground immediately breathed a sigh of relief. It turned its head and said to the other dragon mentors, quick, how long has it been? The big red dragon instructor was startled at first, and said subconsciously, I thought he would live on the last floor forever, but it seems that he finally has no patience. The old Yanlong took a special look at the bottom of the giant pit and said, if Sha Yuan were here, he would definitely roll his eyes. This old rock dragon must be afraid that he is thinking about the radioactive magic stone in its warehouse. Of course, the old rock dragon was right to be afraid. Sha Yuan is really thinking about it. We just have to wait. It shouldn't be long before the first dragon hatchling that clears the level will appear. Instructor Blue Dragon lay lazily on the ground, slightly raised his eyelids, said, and then closed them. That's right, I finally don't have to worry about what happened to him again. The big red dragon instructor heaved a sigh of relief, nodded and replied, I hope so. Looking at the expressions of the other dragon mentors, the old rock dragon muttered in his heart, but I always feel a little uneasy. ... Oh, are you all ready? In the trial of the earth cave, Sha Yuan roared from a high place. He saw the ice dragon Isa stagnating gracefully in midair, flapping her wings, conveyed the call instead of him, and started to make all the young dragons struggling to survive in the trial cave of the earth move in the same direction, eventually come together. In an instant, more than 35 baby dragons appeared in his field of vision in the trial cave of the earth, approaching in the same direction with a blank expression on their faces. I think all the young dragons present here know me, right? Even if they don't, you must have heard of Miss Yisha's name. The black dragon stood up straight, and its figure over 12 meters suddenly attracted the attention of all the young dragons. God, he's so big. Isn't that the notorious baby dragon, Brother Reese Mirabeau Reese? What purpose does he have? Could it be to eat us? Don't be afraid, we long duo, he shouldn't dare to mess around. Woo, even Lady Yisha was forced to join the evil dragon camp. A group of young dragons gathered in the open space of the square in panic. They looked at the unknown young dragons at each other, and then focused on the tall black dragon cub at the front. My name is Reese Mirabeau Reese, and I am calling out to all the young dragons of the trial of the earth. Your trial is coming to an end, but don't worry, I will not harm you. And in the direction behind you is the place leading to the end. But are you willing to leave like this? Are you willing to return to the surface without a test certificate, and then meet the disappointed eyes of your parents and mentors? Sha Yuan glanced at the reluctant young dragons, turned his back and pointed in the direction of a giant door. There is the entrance to other trial caves, but if you only rely on the power of one young dragon, you need at least it takes a year to dig through it. But if all our whelps add up, it only takes half a day to destroy it. Speaking of this, Sha Yuan signaled the mad dragon Durbas and the phantom dragon Exelufu to raise their arms, showing their dragon crests. Look, this is the proof of the trial. Although I can't guarantee that you can get every dragonling, I can be sure that most of you can get it. So, are you willing to go to the finish line with me? What the black dragon said caused an instant uproar among the young dragons. Even the little light dragon shakily frowned, thinking, what the hell is this evil black dragon doing? On the contrary, the mad dragon Durbas and the phantom dragon Exelufu looked at the black dragon's back with admiration, and the ice dragon Isa hovering in the air also had twinkling eyes, as if seeing something incredible. This black dragon seems to be a born king, and at the same time has the temperament of being strong on the outside and soft on the inside, giving him the feeling of a ruler. Can we trust you? That's right, won't you bully us again? My answer is yes. The voice of the black dragon overwhelmed the questioning of the other young dragons. He took down his trial certificate and threw it to the questioning fellow among the dragons. I put my chips here with you. If I fail to do what I said, you can leave directly. It turns out, is he serious? Could it be that you lied to us? Seeing this, the phantom dragon Ziluf and the mad dragon Direbas hesitated for a while, and also took out their own trial certificates. We trust the boss. This is our test certificate, and I will give it to you too. Seeing this scene, the little light dragon shakily in the midst of the dragon group opened her silver dragon pupils instantly, and at the same time muttered in her heart, "Isn't that originally mine?" After this step was achieved, the young dragons had nothing to say. We trust you. Brother Reese Mirabeau Reese, tell me what you want us to do. Following the opening of the young dragons who had obtained the test certificate, other young dragons eager to get the coat of arms also actively jumped up, lest they would fall behind and approach this side. Very well, then follow me. The black dragon opened its mouth, showed a smile, turned around and began to lead the way. Everyone, follow up. This time, no dragonlings will doubt anything anymore. Although they can take the opportunity to escape, they all know what the consequences will be, and what Sha Yuan said is unreasonable. Even if they can't eat meat, they can still order some soup. No matter how bad you are, you can leave this place. As a result, a group of young dragons headed by Sha Yuan approached in the direction of lair of the old rock dragon. At the same time, a certain old dragon on the ground thumped in his heart, secretly thinking something was wrong. It's here, the old guy sealed the intersection, but it's hard for us, let's dig together. Sha Yuan came to the place where he had dug before, but was blocked by the old rock dragon, and now he called on the young dragons to start fighting together. Yes, whoa, although they didn't know the purpose of digging the hole, the young dragons obeyed the command and began to dig hard. With so many young dragons acting together, the scene can be described as spectacular. The young dragons who are good at physics use sharp claws and dragon horns to destroy rock formations, and the young dragons who are themselves rock dragons and bronze dragons even show their housekeeping skills. On the other side, the young dragons who are good at magic provide auxiliary buff effects, and those who can destroy magic will destroy magic, or use healing magic and group magic to eliminate physical fatigue, so that other warrior young dragons are digging desperately. HMPH ha ha ha, yes, that's it. Although I don't know why the black dragon Sha Yuan suddenly laughed strangely, but the young dragons are still digging hard, because they all want to pass the trial and leave here quickly. The same is true for Sha Yuan. After all, how boring it is for a dragon to leave. If you want to go, just go together. By the way, free the whelps trapped in other caves. Of course, if I really believed in Sha Yuan like this, I would be in trouble. Why lead the other young dragons to dig the lair of the old rock dragon? There are 3 purposes. First, the lair of the old rock dragon spans 4 major caves. From here, you can directly lead to the direction of other caves, and you can instantly enter the Trial of Water, Trial of Fire, and Trial of Wood, and then search for the Sacred Dragon Steel in the 3 major trials and plunder the treasures inside. Dragon Emblem. Second, the law does not blame the public. The old rock dragon didn't allow himself to approach the lair, so he brought all the young dragons close. As long as he stayed in the team and took the lead, the radiation would not affect other young dragons because he had already absorbed it in front. In addition, the young dragons will not stay in the lair for a long time, let alone stagnate here, so there is no need to worry about health problems. Third, because of selfishness, Sha Yuan wants to see how her sisters are doing. Miglia is eccentric, so there is no need to worry too much, but Miglia may be timid and retreat, so she still needs to confirm the situation. In addition, Sha Yuan also wanted to take some delicious food at Lao Yanlong's house. Of course it won't be too much, just take 100 million points. In short, let's dig through the old rock dragon's house first. If this scene is known to old Yanlong, he will probably vomit blood with anger, he is simply a bandit. Old rock dragon, black dragon, you are too despicable. Although it's not ethically advised to do so. But there is no rule in the trial that explicitly says that it is not allowed to do so, so what Sha Yuan did is in line with the rules. However, this may be prohibited in future Dragonling trials, but that is a matter of the future. At the very least, Sha Yuan has now become the pioneer of this path, and with his own power, he forcibly changed the rules of the hundreds, or even thousands of years, of the trial of the young dragon. Dozens of young dragons formed a team to attack the giant gate of the old rock dragon lair. This scene also shocked many local monsters. The weak monsters didn't dare to approach at all, and had already fled away. Stalled in the air, the ice dragon Iessa, flapping her dragon wings, couldn't help but fly down and summon the ice-attributed dragon's breath to freeze the rock formation, and then cooperate with Sha Yuan's lightning and white-hot light, high-temperature explosion to cause a wide range of damage to the rock. Destroy. One cold and one hot, no matter how hard the stone is, it will burst directly. Keep working harder, we'll pass the level soon. Sha Yuan knew that the old rock dragon would definitely come after hearing the news, but before it came, the group of young dragons had already passed through the cave to reach other trial areas. 1, 2, 3, boom. Finally, when a flash of fluorescent light came down, the lair of the old rock dragon was dug through again, and a group of young dragons clapped their claws excitedly to express their excitement. Next, with me as the leader, move forward slowly. But all the young dragons must bite the tails of the young dragons in front, and they are not allowed to fall behind. Otherwise, when the old rock dragon comes, we will all be kicked out. With one last warning to all the whelplings, the black dragon took the lead and started to return to the ultimate fat mansion happy place he had always dreamed of. Ah, pleasure. The cells show a comfortable feeling from the inside to the outside, and the radiation coming from all directions continues to drill into the skin of the black dragon. His huge physique is in front of him, like an airtight wall, completely isolating the radiation from the outside, protecting the young dragons from breaking into the lair of the old rock dragon. So beautiful. The light dragon shakily looked at the fluorescent nests around her, and the many glowing radioactive stones caught her attention at once. Shakily, don't touch it. Yes, I know. After being warned by the black dragon, the light dragon shakily pouted and had to put away her little claws. However, since Guanglong is a giant dragon that mainly manipulates light elements, and light is electromagnetic waves, it is also a type of radiation. I don't know if she can digest these things. However, although light is radiation, radiation is not necessarily light. So it's better not to mess around. Then, the next place is Trial of Wood, Cave. Quote. At the same time, the other side of the tunnel. In the depths of the Trial of Wood Cave, a group of young dragons stared blankly at the giant beast that was 3 times as long as them, and fell silent. I said, is that Brother Reese Mirabeau Reese? The young dragon asked to another white young dragon beside him. Probably. The other white dragonling replied somewhat uncertainly. Oh, Migvia, so you've already been here. Sha Yuan didn't pay attention to so many things, he took a step forward and shouted at the familiar figure in front of him. Quote. However, the white young dragon stared stupidly at the huge dragon, which was twice as big as before, and reacted abruptly when she saw the black dragon walking in front of her. Hey, is it really Mirabeau Reese? Looking at the huge big brother in front of her, Migvia felt a little unbelievable, but quickly accepted the reality. Because she has lived with Sha Yuan for a long time, she knows how edible this big brother is and how fast he grows. Migvia, where is Lai? Sha Yuan stepped on the ground hard, walked up to the white dragonling, and asked. Li Ai isn't here, and I don't know where she went. Wait, behind you. Wow, okay, so many dragons. However, just when Migvia looked behind Sha Yuan, she suddenly saw a large group of young dragons coming out from somewhere in the room of a holy dragon steel she broke into. Please give way. A group of young dragons can't wait to enter the level of this level. Ha, is this the place of the Trial of Wood? Wow, so many big trees. So high. Quote. The little phantom dragon Exelufu also looked around in surprise. Forest. After going out, a large group of young dragons looked left and right, and soon a red young dragon found the trial emblem carried by Migvia. There's a coat of arms here, aha, it's mine. A red dragon cub's eyes flashed with ecstasy, and it rushed towards Migvia's direction. Boom. However, before the young dragon could react, the black dragon in front of it suddenly started to move. It raised its left paw and slapped the guy on the neck, sending it flying. Woo, cough. The red dragon cub felt a strong force coming, and his whole body was lifted off the ground. After flying a few meters, he hit the rock wall and coughed in pain. What are you doing, Mirabeau Reese? The red dragon cub that was blown away glared at it and let out a cry of dissatisfaction. Did I tell you to snatch the crests of other whelps? At this moment, the black dragon's oppressive power finally appeared, with its arms slightly open, its biped upright, and its suffocating figure. It opened its fangs to the young dragon who was showing hostility to him. What? The red dragon cub was terrified, it flinched in surprise, a trace of confusion appeared in its eyes. Call. Just when the red dragon cub was still in a daze, there was a soft sound of breaking through the air. There should be other undiscovered, sacred dragon stone tablets. Here, let's go find them all. Quote. Ayesa glanced at the red dragon cub, then flew away to look for the coat of arms above the canopy of the trial of wood. For the young dragons who have not yet learned to fly, there must be several sacred dragon stels at the highest point of the canopy, and Yisha's goal is naturally there. Me too, you guys work hard. Although this bad black dragon promised that most of the young dragons will get it, he didn't say that he would feed the crest to your mouths. First come, first served, everyone, don't be dumbfounded. The light dragon Hikali also fluttered her wings and flew towards a high place. Although she can't fly yet, she can glide without any problem. But before she left, she took a brief look at the black dragon Sha Yuan, and it seemed that her impression of him had changed a little bit. Maybe this guy isn't as bad as he thought. But it is undeniable that he is still too much. Hiss. At this time, the fallen red dragon cub raised its head, with burning pain in its back. It opened its eyes slightly, and what it saw was a pair of bright golden pupils. Quote exclamation mark quote. The red dragon cub's eyes widened in horror, and the dragon's vertical pupils kept shrinking. Facing the gaze of the black dragon, it had no choice but to run outside in embarrassment, looking for the holy dragon steel in the trial of wood. Other young dragons don't need to move. Seeing the other whelps getting ready to move, Sha Yuan immediately turned around and stopped them, saying, "The whelps who are good at fire and water attributes stay, and Direbas and Exalufu will take you to the other two a trial cave, find the holy dragon steel, and get the coat of arms, then you can leave directly. But if you are accidentally snatched away, don't blame me for not protecting you." Sha Yuan moved his eyes down and nodded to the mad dragon Direbas and the phantom dragon Exalufu, and then he was ready to return to the lair of the old rock dragon to order something. "Dilbas, Shaloof, boss, let's separate here. Each of you will take a group of young dragons to other places. By the way, help me find the whereabouts of Migliai. If possible, I hope you can let her pass the trial safely, even if you didn't get the coat of arms." "Yes, I understand, boss. Let us meet on the ground." After saying this, Sha Yuan was about to turn around and return to the cave. But before leaving, he said to Migvia, "Waya, the direction to go out is to the north, where is the entrance of the final trial. But there is no danger now, if you encounter the old rock dragon when you leave. Well, remember to help me find a way to delay it." "Oh, good, good." Migvia didn't seem to understand what happened. She blinked her smart eyes and watched her big brother get into the cave again. The other side. After returning to the lair of the old rock dragon, the first thing Sha Yuan did was to rush to the pile of radioactive ore, throw himself on top of it, and roll wildly. Oh ha 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 ha. If there were other young dragons here, they would probably watch this scene dumbfounded. Not long ago, the tall black dragon who was full of majesty, leading the young dragons, and intimidating the disobedient ones, was having fun like a child without any image. Although it is true that it is a child in terms of age. But Sha Yuan's behavior at this time is like a person who is extremely greedy for money after seeing the hills piled up with countless gold coins and the ocean of treasures formed by a large number of gemstones and precious possessions. Bathing in money is probably what it feels like. What's more, these radioactive minerals are really good things that can bring about enhancement. Maybe they have little effect on adults, but they are like growth hormones to children. After bathing in the intense radiation, Sha Yuan's skin was already festering, visible to the naked eye. But don't worry, the ulceration is only temporary. In the place where the ulceration follows, the cells will be stimulated by the radiation and begin to multiply and divide. Not only will the original skin grow back, but the muscles will also become bigger. Then, relatively, the price is the body temperature rise during rapid evolution. This body temperature is still within the tolerable range. It looks like a high fever. The sweat and other moisture on the body start to turn into steam and float upwards. The whole black dragon is bathed in this atmosphere. It's almost there. If you wait any longer, the old rock dragon should be back. Sha Yuan supported his body with some reluctance, and started to leave the pile of radioactive ore. But his body temperature has indeed reached a very high level due to evolution, and it is time to find a place to cool down and digest the large wave of radiant energy he just absorbed. If he was caught by the old rock dragon at this time, he would definitely be thrown out by the furious old guy and be disqualified. So, time to run. Well, let's go to the trial of water. Next, just take a bath to cool down. Quote. Sha Yuan thought to himself, and then dragged his heavy body all the way, looking like a huge fat black lizard. He slid down towards the entrance of the trial of water, splashed a large splash of water, and quickly disappeared into the vortex among the trial of water, in the underground lake. Gululu. At this moment, a strange sound came to Sha Yuan's ears. Floating on the water in a backstroke posture, he turned his body over, lowered his eyes, and looked at a black giant shadow that was approaching rapidly in the depths of the lake. Fish. Sha Yuan stared at the black figure swimming towards her quickly below the lake surface, with a look of astonishment. Boom. In the next second, a jet of water rushed up, hitting his fat body, and knocking him to the top of the entire space along with the water flow. Wow! The turbulent sound of the water was aroused, and the giant black shadow under the water rushed out of the water column, and opened its mouth to Sha Yuan in the air. Sha Yuan, who was lifted into the air by the water column, looked at the approaching giant mouth. His bright golden pupils shrank suddenly, and then the dorsal fin lit up with a golden flash, and a fiery flame erupted from his abdomen along with the lightning, instantly piercing through the predator. Come the troll's stomach. Boom. Zzz. The high temperature evaporated a large amount of lake water, and the electric arc continued to swim in the water flow, and the giant monster that attacked was also hit by the breath out of the water. Boom. The black dragon fell from midair, fell into the lake, and then looked at the guy floating in front of him. Well, what a giant catfish monster. It actually engages in a sneak attack, so why don't you turn yourself into a grilled fish now? In front of the grilled catfish, Sha Yuan tore off a piece of meat from its belly with his claws, and then put it in his mouth to chew. The meat was delicious and juicy, and it tasted very refreshing. Just when I was hungry, the big meal came. During this time, Sha Yuan has been eating some less nutritious armored wolf meat, and sometimes he has to eat a few mouthfuls of spiders. Compared with these barren guys, the catfish in front of him is simply a delicacy, and it is delivered to the door by itself, probably treating itself as an ordinary dragonling. Then I won't be polite. The black dragon licked the catfish blood around his mouth. The corners of his mouth were cracked, and his sharp teeth were particularly eye-catching under the faint light from the radioactive material in his mouth. Dine. The big stomach king starts. The black dragon's claws pierced into the catfish's body, then bent and tore violently, tearing off a large piece of snow-white fish meat and throwing it into its mouth. Eat it up, consume it. At the moment when the fish was swallowed, Sha Yuan's passive ability was activated, and the big stomach king quickly transformed the fish into energy and gathered it into the body. In addition, the delicacy of this catfish gave him an incomparable shock. Even from the perspective of human taste, a delicious fish is very good even without seasoning. It's just that the body is a little hot. Is it exciting to feel the delicious taste of catfish? Sha Yuan didn't know if his eyes were dazzled, but he seemed to see his muscles and skin wriggling slightly, as if he was evolving. I'm full, but I'm so sleepy, I suddenly feel like I want to sleep. Forget it, it's still early, let's go to sleep for a while. After completely eradicating the catfish and leaving a huge bare fish bone, Sha Yuan swam towards the bottom of the lake contentedly. He didn't know why he could breathe in the water, but it seemed that his skin would automatically inhale it when it came into contact with the oxygen in the water. The purpose of the existence of the lungs was only to make sound and blow air. Moreover, in Sha Yuan's memory, there was a creature in the previous life that could survive without lungs, which seemed to be called giant lungless Sicilian. Even without nostrils, lungs or legs, the creature could still survive on land. Maybe I was born with the genetic information of this kind of organism, and then the cells began to adapt to the water environment independently. Well, it's really convenient. Next, Sha Yuan searched for a lair at the bottom of the lake, pulled it with his claws in the depths, then found a suitable and safe place, stuffed his tail and lower body in, and then hid his whole body like a living creature in the fissures at the bottom of the lake. Finally, close your eyes, and go to sleep quietly, full of food and drink. In the process of evolution, Sha Yuan only felt that his whole body was itchy, and his head hurt like a fever. After devouring a large number of magic stones and being stimulated by radioactive radiation, the cells in his whole body began to mutate and evolve crazily, dividing and proliferating continuously without him noticing. At a speed visible to the naked eye, the rich radioactive energy promotes the blood circulation of the black dragon's body, the pulse gradually accelerates, the body heats up, the cells shrink, expand, re-shrink, and re-expand, and the muscle groups and cell groups on the body are constantly proliferating and fissioning with. Finally, the face area of the black dragon began to shrink, no longer bloated, the tail became longer, and the dorsal fin developed again. It seems that it has successfully entered the second stage of evolution from the first stage. System. The host has detected a large amount of high concentration radiation, and the cells are currently highly activated. System. Mutant dragon cells reach a critical value. The cells mutate, and are evolving the thermonuclear energy converter organ of the biological atomic furnace. Although it is a small-scale evolution, this time, there will not be much change in body shape and appearance. But what has evolved can be described as a qualitative change. The atomic furnace is similar to the heart, and it is also the organ where the dragon stores magic power. Whenever the mutated dragon's breath radiates heat rays, the heat generated by the biological atomic furnace in the body will cause the subcutaneous parts of the body to emit a frightening red light, and at the same time spit out powerful destructive heat rays. Now the black dragon's body length has evolved to 25.5 meters, and it is 17 meters high when standing upright. With its pitch black appearance and sharp sword-like dorsal fin, terrifying energy is stored in its body. The energy generated by the heart's biological atomic furnace makes the subcutaneous parts of the wrinkled black scales of all parts of the body emit red light, which looks quite terrifying. At the same time, the tail can swing freely, possessing super high toughness and strong regenerative power. Whoa, whoosh, gudong. The black dragon Godzilla let out a violent exhalation sound that shook the surroundings in the water. Boom. The strong and powerful terrifying giant tail swung 1,000 tons of force to stir at the bottom of the lake, and then slammed on the river bed. In the turbid lake water, the black dragon's closed eyelids instantly opened, and the golden red vertical pupils shrank into needles. Extra flickering. The ferocious dorsal fin stood up high, the domineering and thick legs and the slender four-limbed dragon claws were under the abdomen, and it was completely in the form of a real monster at this time. Boom, boom. The bottom of the lake shook. The black shadow like a giant pillar stood up slowly from the riverbed at the bottom of the lake. He walked in the water with a height of 17 meters, and every step landed rumbled, resounding through the shore of the lake. So hot. Sha Yuan turned into a giant dragon walking upright, but the shape of his dorsal fin changed a lot, and an indescribable heat radiated from his body from time to time. But, so comfortable, soaking in the cold water lake at this time, his body, which was always hot all the time, was finally cooled down. I don't know what I've become now. Because there was no mirror or anything like that, Sha Yuan could only look down at the changes in his arms, body, chest, and tail. He didn't rush to test his newly acquired ability immediately, but after the initial calm down, he calmed down and swam to a deep water area. Sha Yuan can clearly perceive that the direction of this evolution is different from before. It's a feeling that I can't explain clearly, as if I know myself better, the muscles and various organs of the body are more familiar, and even every move, I can clearly perceive the changes in the subtle muscle groups in the body. And the eyes can see farther. The eyes of the dragon can see through most illusions, but Sha Yuan's dragon eyes unlocked thermal radiation vision after the mutation. Its effect is similar to that of an infrared camera, which can perspective and clear awareness of the location of all radiating entities. You don't even need eyes, you can clearly perceive the heat changes of the surrounding environment, creatures, and objects when you close your eyes, thus making it an eye of the heart. The height has doubled, and the current body is completely comparable to the giant dragon in youth. Sha Yuan looked at his uncontrollable body with a little worry. His evolution rate has already far surpassed that of young dragons of the same age. Even if he goes out to pretend to be a young dragon, no one will suspect anything. But with the improvement of strength, Sha Yuan gradually gained confidence in his heart. What this evolution brings is not just a change in body shape. The magic power derived from the blood has not been substantially improved, but it has also doubled the magic power storage capacity with the size, but it is negligible compared to ordinary dragons who are good at magic talents. These magics do not bring much help to the black dragon. The first thing worth mentioning is the dragon's breath. The dragon's breath has changed from twice a day to the current, unlimited times. Use it before the physical strength is exhausted, and wait for the physical strength to be used after exhaustion. The impact is undoubtedly huge. But don't get too excited. Although the biological atomic furnace can be a fusion reaction or a fission reaction, but most of them require high temperature and high pressure, and when the breath is released, the core temperature will also soar. If the core temperature gets out of control accidentally, what awaits Sha Yuan is self-destruction. There is even the possibility of an internal explosion. By the way, since Sha Yuan learned the internal radiation in advance, if he didn't want to live that day, he could choose to explode himself, turning himself into a living nuclear bomb and blowing up a large area. As long as he wants to, he can suicide at any time. This ability sounds scary. Therefore, the skill of internal radiation, at least until adulthood, cannot be used easily. No, using it is basically equivalent to death. After all, this is a skill that actively activates the self-red lotus mode, and even an adult brother does not dare to try it lightly. At present, there is only one guy called Puffy, who can overload his own reactor and electromagnetic core through his own will, so that he can enter the red lotus mode. In this mode, the temperature around Puffy will exceed 10,000 degrees, and Puffy can be ended at any time by his own will. The pattern. None of the other bosses can take the initiative to end this mode. They all kill 1,000 enemies and lose 800 themselves. If you don't really encounter an invincible enemy, you will never want to turn on the red lotus mode, and even if you want to, there are a lot of restrictions and various factors are indispensable. Back to business. With Sha Yuan's current physical strength, he would definitely not dare to try internal radiation. Instead, he came to the following conclusions after studying the atomic furnace and dragon's breath. In a cooling round, body temperature returns to normal. He can breathe out 3 times in a row, or output continuously for 5 seconds. This is a safe process. If you encounter a dangerous enemy, you can breathe out up to 5 times in a row, or continue to output for 8 to 10 seconds related to physical fitness. The last 2 breaths do more damage, but you must stop breathing immediately afterwards, otherwise your physical strength will be exhausted, your core temperature will soar, and your temperature and pressure will get out of control. The whole process is divided into preheating, right pointing arrow, release, right pointing arrow, overload, right pointing arrow, dangerous state, right pointing arrow, forced cooling, right pointing arrow, end of round. Rather than increasing the number of times, it is more like reminding you that a good body can make you last longer. Although he is a real man for 5 seconds, if he continues to breathe for 5 seconds and still cannot kill the enemy, then no matter how long it takes, you still won't be able to kill him, and the remaining physical strength might as well be used for escaping. Besides, the black dragon's stomach has also mutated, like a high-temperature and high-pressure atomic furnace. This stomach furnace can digest all food, and most substances in this world, whether rock or metal, can't resist the black dragon's digestion. In other words, by swallowing radioactive ores and radioactive metals, energy can be directly extracted. Theoretically, any substance can be turned into fuel to replenish physical strength, and in a hurry, one can recover a little bit of weak strength by eating soil. It's a pity that the dragon's breath still hasn't mutated in the true sense. It's still in the lightning white hot light stage, and hasn't evolved into lightning radiating hotline unlocked in youth. There is another piece of news that I don't know whether it is good or bad. After the evolution of the biological atomic furnace, any part of the black dragon's internal organs, blood, etc., carried quite strong radiation. Especially after the biological atomic furnace is activated, when the dorsal fin lights up with golden light, there will be a sound of crackling, shaking the air, the sound of air ionization. At the same time, faint light would overflow from the gaps in the black dragon's chest scales, and the radiation sealed within the body would also spread outward. This kind of radiation, is extremely destructive. The lake water in the near distance will boil and evaporate instantly, and the fish in the distance will turn up their bellies and die in just a few seconds. With the ego at the center, a large area around it presents the death of radioactive poisoning. Even the creatures that survived will be slowly killed by the vicious radiation in the environment. Chapter 51. Radioactivity. No, the field of death radiation. Sha Yuan can fully imagine that when he becomes very powerful in the future, he only needs to radiate the radiation in his body to create a death field, causing weak enemies to fall like a wheat field. But this is not good news. Sha Yuan didn't want to leave a field of destruction after the battle in the future. In that case, what is the difference between a poisonous dragon that is good at poison and an evil dragon that spreads plague? In a sense, radiation is no different from poison or plague. On the contrary, the destruction of the natural ecology will lead to the hatred of a large wave of enemies, and wherever they go, the hatred will be drawn. Sooner or later, a large group of terrifying upright apes who call themselves adventurers will pop up to attack themselves. Fortunately, Sha Yuan doesn't have to worry about this problem. Although he emits some strong biological radiation when he breathes, the danger of this radiation is only temporary, and it disappears quickly, so there is no need to worry about the environment being polluted. Even so, if there are two weak creatures close to a certain area of him, they may be poisoned and die. But this power will be controlled after he reaches adulthood, and he can actively turn it on and off. In the case of not using the breath, the amount of radiation is negligible. The trial of water, in the underground lake. It has been 55 days since the trial of the young dragon began. Finally one day, the earth shook violently, cracks appeared in the lake and began to collapse, and a terrifying vortex rolled up in the depths. The young dragons, awakened by the roaring thunder, like most other creatures in the lake, were forced to drift far away under the thrust of the devastating water waves. What happened? Is it the end of the world, a maelstrom? The young dragons, who were good at water attribute magic, watched the astonishing changes on the lake in horror. They felt something moving under the lake, causing the ground to vibrate, extremely strong. Boom, boom, boom. Even the subterranean lake often has huge waves and eddies, but the vibrations have never been so frequent, like rhythmic drums. Suddenly, the thunderous bang was over. Then the lake began to roll, and the young dragons suddenly realized that something was wrong. They lined up in a row, restlessly leaning against the cave wall by the lake, spreading their wings and raising their claws. They seemed to be defensive actions after sensing danger, and the young dragons were so terrified in their hearts. What kind of monster is that? The young dragons stared at the direction of the shock and thunder with their small eyes. On that deep swirling lake, the huge dorsal fin, like a divine sword, split the surface of the lake. They clearly show that a large shadow is moving. It was much bigger than any underground lake monster they had seen here, and it quickly swam towards the shore. That monster moves fast. Every time it moved, the surface of the lake fluctuated violently, and the thunder sounded again. At this moment, a large number of young dragons have gathered on the shore to watch this scene, and they are all attracted by the terrible vibration. Then I saw the huge shadow and the huge dorsal fin that tore through the lake. Crash! An extremely strong sense of vibration was set off along with thunder and huge waves. Under the eyes of everyone, the huge shadow broke through the water surface, revealing the terrifying body, and then an extremely strong visual impact hit. Boom! A few seconds later, a huge black shadow stood upright from the rolling waves of the underground lake. A giant dragon with pitch black short wings appeared. It twisted its neck, moved its thick and powerful claws, moved its thick hind legs, and displayed its powerful body in the air. On the head of the giant reptile-like black dragon, a pair of indifferent golden-red pupils were scanning the creatures under its feet, and their sharp gaze passed over the group of fleeing young dragons. Although there was no malice, the sharp and domineering eyes exuded the oppression of a king. As the huge tail slapped the riverbed at the bottom of the lake, causing shock, every step on the soles of the feet on the shore brought a strong roar, shaking the area, making its majestic and domineering posture and momentum extremely terrifying. Finally, the black dragon's disdainful eyes looked down and opened its mouth. Roar! The huge roaring sound turned into a substantive sound wave and spread to the surroundings, and the surrounding lake surface was even more terrifying because of this sound. Shocked by the roar, the heads of the young dragons exploded. The attack of the sound wave caused them to act abnormally, and they began to ram into the lake accidentally. Next second, the surviving young dragons scattered in horror, and they all ran away desperately away from the black dragon monster, which aroused the black dragon's doubts and confusion. Or, when that huge shadow appeared, Brother Reese is already regarded by the whelps as an unstoppable monster. My name, Jay Lei. Ha, why are you running away? Brother Black Dragon Reese, or when the huge body of Sha Yuan was fully displayed in front of the eyes of other young dragons. Its dark skin, thick hind legs, powerful posture, and sword-like dorsal fin on its back make it look like the dragon monster that should exist in this place. Therefore, the young dragons were all scared away. Cough, cough, everyone, hey, what's going on? Why these guys ran away when they saw me? Brother Reese Sha Yuan clenched his right paw, and the air he grasped made a crackling sound. Then he raised his head and looked at the quiet cave that was empty around him. Could it be that I evolved too ugly to scare them? Brother Reese scratched his head and said with some embarrassment. Speaking of which, after the end of the evolution, Sha Yuan abandoned the human name and changed his dragon name to Jay Reese Mirabo Riesla. This also marks the process of his transformation from human to dragon, and fully recognizes this new racial identity. So, Sha Yuan, oh no. Brother Reese really wants to act with the other whelps, asking them what happened recently and how long he has been asleep. But for now, an oversized self. It's easy to be mistaken for a scary monster. The young dragons didn't dare to approach him, which really made him feel helpless. Although I look scary, I'm very gentle inside. Brother Reese sighed. In a physical sense, it is indeed a warm man, referring to the kind that can roast people. But there's no need to be so afraid of yourself, right? It seems that I have to restrain my facial expressions in the future. Brother Reese didn't seem to understand why the whelps were afraid of him. Why are you running away one by one? On this day, there was a thunderous cry from the Trial of Water Cave. Its voice was so deep that it was hard to suspect that it was some evil dragon roaring angrily. Anyway, Reese is still a kid. Maybe it is indeed a little bit taller, but its physical age is at most equivalent to the 8-year-old human level. Under normal circumstances, juvenile giant dragons are about 15 to 20 meters long, and a few species of dragons may reach more than 25 meters. But as a holy dragon species, this kind of giant dragon that is good at magic usually does not have a large size. For example, Brother Reese's father, the holy dragon Leonard, as a holy dragon species, has a body length of only about 25 meters. Considering the size of an adult dragon, this is not too big, and it can even be said to be a dwarf. But for Magic Dragon, this size is just right, neither too big nor too small. Of course, Leonard's small size does not mean that other holy dragon species are small. Leonard's big brother-sister, who is also a relative of Brother Reese, has a body size of more than 30 meters. In a sense, the size of the dragons also matched their strength. The small ones are not necessarily weak, but the big ones must be strong. For example, the big red dragon Mentor, it has a body size of 40 meters when it is half squatting. It is estimated to be about 46 meters when it is fully upright, and its wingspan is estimated to exceed 50 meters, but it is an ancient dragon, which means a very old dragon, lived at least several thousand years. As for the old rock dragon Tadnik, although Reese has only seen it once, it is about 60 meters from head to tail by visual inspection, and its size is quite large, and there must be organs similar to the melting furnace in the old rock dragon, which can be easily digested rock and metal. It can be seen that the dragon's genes are quite powerful. Their cells will continue to divide, so that the dragons will not stop growing in size until they die naturally. And the size of the dragon kings is estimated to be beyond the imagination of ordinary dragons. Therefore, today's black dragon Brother Reese is 17 meters tall and 25 meters long. The human concept is a primary school student who is 1.9 meters tall and has big muscles. Although the development is abnormal, it is still within the acceptable range of the giant dragons, and it will not be too abnormal. At least, that's what Reese himself thinks. What's going on? Are they all heading towards the end of the trial, one by one? Quote, on the way back, Brother Reese stomped on the ground and made a thunderous sound, intersecting the eyes of the young dragons. But at the moment of meeting, the other party turned and ran away. The other young dragons even had ghost-like expressions on their faces, and ran towards the exit in horror. Why are you looking at me like this? I won't eat you again. Brother Reese thought so, and rushed directly towards the finish line. Woo! Just after coming out of the underground lake passage, Brother Reese heard the roar of the whelping dragons, and made him grin slightly and smiled. Choose to cooperate against me. Is this a violation? I didn't do anything. Looking at the young dragons who were forced to the end and confronted him with frightened faces, Brother Reese only complained a little, and he was not angry enough to use lightning white hot light on them. And in the area leading to the outside world where the end of the water trial is located, there are more than a dozen young dragons staying in the defensive magic circle. There are also some who are fully armed and stay outside, wary of their approach. The existence of Black Dragon Brother Reese brought them an extreme sense of oppression. The young dragons hiding in the defensive magic circle all raised their heads and entered the fighting state as if they were facing a big enemy. That's Lily. Brother Reese, who was going to ignore these young dragons, suddenly noticed a white young dragon among the young dragons, which was his sister Migliel. After thinking about it, he finally decided to walk in the direction of Migliel. Boom! Sensing the arrival of the black dragon, facing the oppressive feeling emanating from Reese's huge body, the young dragons who were motionless also took a few steps back in horror, but let the white dragon, M.I., who was locked on the target by the black dragon, Gray, was exposed. Woo! Migliel looked at the black dragon approaching in front of her, her eyes wide open, terrified. Are you waiting for me here, Lily? Looking at the very small Migliel, Brother Reese shook his head slightly and said a joke. In fact, he didn't know why he came here. It's just that in his opinion, his sister seems to be afraid of him. Quote. Migliel looked up at the black dragon in front of her, was stunned for a while, and then said weakly, Are you, Brother Reese, big brother? Yes. As if he felt that he might have changed a lot, Brother Reese chose to get on all fours and be within sight of Migliel as much as possible, looking into her eyes, and replied. I'm Brother Reese. Should I really be worthy of being a big brother? I'm still stuck at this stage. Migliel looked a little shocked, as if she couldn't understand why her big brother had tripled in size, and was now about 5 times her size. Forehead. Quote. The atmosphere fell into awkward silence again. Lee. What? Faced with Brother Reese's sudden question, Migliel raised her head subconsciously. Come on, I've been here long enough, it's time to leave. Brother Reese thought for a while, but did not choose to help Migliel complete the trial of the young dragon. This is a quiz and an exam. If he helped her, then this exercise would be meaningless. Really, since the big brother said so, I will work hard. Migliel nodded, and replied very seriously. Then, I'll go first. The old dragons are probably getting impatient and dragging on. Maybe I'll evolve into an adult underground. Brother Reese half joked, straightened up, and walked towards the stone door of the huge exit. It easily pushed open the door that the whelps had struggled to open with just one hand, and disappeared into the tunnel stairs leading to the ground. Neither will I keep you waiting too long, big brother. Migliel lowered her head and seemed to be very happy, she smiled slightly. Hey, Lee, who was that adolescent dragon just now? Suddenly, Migliel felt her side was poked, and then there was a curious inquiry from other dragonlings. Migliel raised her head, and saw a red young dragon about the same size as her, staring at her with shining eyes. Durana, that is, wait. In the next second, Migliel was surrounded by continuous inquiries from the young dragons. Finally, is it over? At the end of the tunnel, Brother Reese looked up towards the sky, his sharp claws penetrated the boulder, and climbed towards the ground without hesitation. Trial exit. It's finally out. On the ground, the old Yanlong said suddenly, looking down. Are you back, Brother Reese? The big red dragon instructor slowly opened his eyes, the dark golden dragon pupils were full of relief. Roar. There was a violent roar, and a pitch-black body appeared from the bottom of the deep pit, suddenly appeared in the huge pit, and appeared in front of all the dragon mentors. The black and wrinkled dragon scales of the giant dragon reflected a gloomy red light under the sunlight, and its golden red vertical pupils also slowly shrank, then enlarged, and began to adapt to the light changes on the surface. Guru Daemon, and fellow dragon mentors. I, Brother Reese Mirabo Riesla, hereby announce that I have passed the trial. Facing the dragon mentors who were staring at him, Brother Reese roared. But the next moment, the giant tail that has been falling from the sky entangled him. The old rock dragon to Nick's huge body of 60 meters came oppressively. His tail, which was as strong as a giant rock, strangled the black dragon's waist, lifted it up high, and threw it into the center surrounded by the dragon mentors. Boom! When the heavy object hit the ground, Reese looked at the old rock dragon with a dazed expression and waited quietly. Is there anything else you want to say? Old rock dragon was the first to break the silence, with hot breath spraying from his nostrils, and asked his brother Reese. Let's say there have been a lot of accidents, but I didn't violate the rules. There is no such thing as not allowed in the trial. Brother Reese hurriedly answered from the side. We can perceive the general changes in the ground, and what good deeds you have done. You should be glad that no young dragons were injured or killed in this accident. The blue dragon instructor added on the side. You were a late hatchling. We were taken aback when there were a lot of hatchlings. But they all said the same name, and it was you, Brother Reese. The big red dragon sighed helplessly, and motioned to the old rock dragon. HMPH, kid. You dug up my house and brought other young dragons to grab things, but you are so brave. So, why did you suddenly become so big? Could it be that the monsters I collected do stones help you too? Shenglong should not eat these things. The old rock dragon said in a deep voice, its expression was very heavy. Dragons have a strong digestive capacity for anything they eat, including inorganic matter such as trees and rocks. But the real dragons hate these things and are ashamed of them. Among them, the proud high-ranking dragons are even more ashamed of devouring rocks and metals. The reason why Brother Reese showed a frightened expression when he ate the stone. However, swallowing rocks can help speed up the digestion of food, harden the scales of the newborn whelping dragon, and help the whelping dragon quickly complete the curing of the scales. But the pile of stones in the old rock dragon stored a large amount of radioactive energy, which was not digestible by ordinary creatures. Those magic stones mutated my body, but don't worry, I think it's a beneficial mutation. Brother Reese got up on the ground. Then he showed off his scales, muscles and strong body, saying that he was healthy and didn't need to care about it at all. It looks so right on the outside. I can also feel the explosive energy in your body. But your body is already in a very dangerous situation. Your body temperature is much higher than that of other young dragons. Although the rock dragon a family can also become very hot when they are adults, but only lava dragons can maintain high temperatures at all times. Old Yanlong saw the situation of Brother Reese at a glance. But the lava dragon he was talking about was an elemental dragon of earth attribute. In a sense, the lava dragon is more like the red lotus Godzilla in the dragon world. Isn't it to suppress the body temperature? So I ran to the water trial cave and stayed for a long time. Anyway, I finally recovered well, so don't punish me. Brother Reese raised his paw in embarrassment and scratched his cheek. You are really full of all kinds of surprises. The big red dragon sighed. It couldn't make a choice instead of the old rock dragon. But looking at the appearance of the old Yanlong, there is a high probability that Reese will not be punished. By the way, Brother Reese, you have stayed in the trial of the earth for more than a month. Have you encountered an ice dragon named Isha? How about it? Have you fought against each other? Blue dragon instructor hastily changed the subject and asked his brother Reese. Isha, hearing the blue dragon instructor's question, Brother Reese nodded and said calmly, well, yes, I defeated her. What are you talking about? The blue dragon instructor was stunned for a moment, but he didn't react for a while, but the big red dragon instructor looked delighted, and it turned out that he had made the right bet. So, I won. Brother Reese looked at the expressions of the blue dragon mentor and other dragons who did not turn around, so he reiterated it with a serious face. Gu Luo Daemon, there may be something wrong with my hearing. Actually, I feel like there might be something wrong with my ears too. The blue dragon mentor and the old rock dragon looked at each other, as if a little unbelievable. It's true, Miss Yisha is very strong. After I resisted her frost attack, I blasted her down with my breath. If she thickens her frost armor again, I might really win. No. Brother Reese seemed dissatisfied with the response of the dragon mentors. Why he seemed surprised that he defeated that guy. Wait, bro Reese, stop for a second, let's figure out what's going on. The blue dragon instructor stretched out his claws to signal Reese not to speak for the time being, then turned his eyes to the other dragons and turned away. Seeing this scene, Brother Reese misunderstood and looked at Dahonglong's tutor, and asked, "Did I do something wrong? Is it possible that Ayasha is the daughter of some important person? Don't play with me, I don't want to be exiled to the dragon prison. You said that you resisted her frost magic, and also used dragon's breath to smash the ice armor of the frost dragon family. Do you know what that means?" On the side, the big red dragon mentor looked at Brother Reese with complicated eyes. "This means that the strength you have shown has surpassed the elemental dragon species. Perhaps there may be an element of luck. But after seeing your body shape now, I think they should be convinced. Brother Reese, your future prospects unlimited. It is very likely that he will be selected by the Apostle of the Dragon King next." On the other side, several dragon mentors were shocked by the news brought by Brother Reese. They looked at each other in dismay, then nodded at the same time. "Well, Brother Reese, try to use your breath on the old rock dragon technique with all your strength." "Is this really good?" Brother Reese looked at the old rock dragon with some embarrassment, always feeling a little bit hesitant to do so. After all, it is too disrespectful for the elderly to eat other people's food, take other people's food, and beat them. "Don't talk nonsense, hurry up, you still think your breath can break my carapace?" The old Yanlong said impatiently, and then showed a body that made the earth tremble, and entered a defensive posture. "Okay, if that's the case, roar, lightning white hot light." Brother Reese didn't hesitate any longer. When the dorsal fin shone with dazzling golden light, a ball of arc flame beams spewed out from the abdominal cavity, directly hitting the thick rock armor of the old rock dragon. Boom, boom. 1 second, 2 seconds. The instant dragon's breath turned into continuous output, and Reese's dorsal fin began to flicker golden light crazily. The core temperature soared visible to the naked eye, and the color of the dorsal fin also turned light red, gradually turning towards bright red. And at the moment when it was about to turn red, the breath stopped, and Brother Reese was filled with steam and water mist. "Phew, I'm so tired. Can I do it?" Brother Reese had just finished speaking, but found that the other dragon instructors were stunned. "Well, mentor, why are you looking at me like that?" A few seconds later, Brother Reese looked at the giant dragons surrounding him, his eyelids twitched, and asked, "Brother Reese, please answer me carefully, are you Leonard's son? Or are you the illegitimate son of a certain dragon king?" Instructor Dahonglong thought for a while and explained, "I'm sorry, I was too arrogant." Brother Reese shook his head and said aloud, "Why?" The whole body of the old rock dragon began to tremble. It shook off the melted magma substance on its body. Looking at the exposed dragon scale skin, it murmured subconsciously, "My rocky skin." The other dragons looked at each other with complicated expressions. The power of this breath is already comparable to some adult dragons. Although the duration is a bit short, Brother Reese is just a baby dragon, is that all? "What's wrong?" Brother Reese asked a little strangely. Boom. In the next second, a huge claw hit Brother Reese on the head, directly hitting him and humming, "Boy, don't stay in the young dragon training camp from now on. I will let you directly participate in the basic combat training of the young dragons in the growth stage. There is no need for you to waste time in such a place. Wait until the giant dragon a year later during the battle. You will fight with other young dragons again, and then will be the time to truly test your strength. That's right, the apostles of the Dragon King will also appear one after another on that day. Let's show off your strength. Next, me, Old Nick, and Gu Luo Damon, the three of us will train you together for a period of time, first of all, to control your mind and magic power, and I will try to help you learn to control your body temperature and stabilize your core strength. Old Nick will teach you how to exercise your body so that you will have a strong physique. Gu Luo Damon will teach you how to use the dragon's breath, allowing you to greatly strengthen the power of the breath in a short period of time." The blue dragon mentor and the other two giant dragon mentors spoke in one sentence. Her eyes were full of surprise, as if she was seeing some rare dragon species. "To be honest, Brother Reese, although your parents are holy dragons, you are a mutated black dragon in both appearance and characteristics. If you want to become stronger than other dragons in the future, you want to if those high-ranking dragons are stepping under your feet, then you must accept our guidance from now on. If you want to say why, it is three old guys who want to watch a potential junior grow up step by step and become a promising future. A powerful giant dragon that may affect or even shake the status of the Dragon King. Feeling the fiery eyes of the three old dragons, Brother Reese shrank his neck. Well, although he wanted to say that he didn't have to expect too much from himself, in order to avoid being beaten up, Reese chose to keep quiet. Don't worry kid, we are not as good as those Dragon King apostles in terms of combat ability. But in terms of experience, even a very few young Dragon Kings have to call us seniors. Instructor Blue Dragon said proudly. Oh, Norsanna, the name of the Blue Dragon mentor, there is no need to call yourself a senior in front of me, right? The old Yanlong looked at the Blue Dragon mentor mockingly, as if he was the oldest here. Yes, you are the oldest. Compared with you, I am only 3,576 years old, but I am still a young child. The Blue Dragon instructor doesn't seem to intend to argue with the old Rock Dragon about who is older. By the way, Gurodamon is already 4,200 years old. The Blue Dragon Norsanna winked at the little black dragon Brother Reese and said. What about the Rock Dragon instructor? I don't know, but it will definitely not be less than 6,800 years old. The Blue Dragon mentor glanced at the old Rock Dragon and said. One more thing to add is that the race of the old Rock Dragon is not the Rock Dragon species, but the higher-ranking, giant Rock Dragon. But on top of this, there are still two upper dragon species. One is the elemental dragon, lava dragon, mentioned earlier, and the other is a special individual called Rock Mountain Dragon. The size of Yanshanlong is very huge, at least over 100 meters, but due to its special race, Yanshanlong seldom appears in front of other giant dragons. The isolated island, with many plants growing on its back, forms an ecosystem of its own. Most of the giant dragons live around 3,000 years old, and the extremely powerful ones can survive for more than 10,000 years. It's a pity that most of the dragons died in the battle. Few of them fell to the end of their lives, and a natural death seemed a disgrace to the dragon. Except for Rock Mountain Dragon. Rock Mountain dragons live at a very slow pace. After their death, their corpses will turn into islands and continents, becoming a part of nature. At that time, new Rock Mountain dragons will be bred. And the father of the old Rock Dragon Tidnik was a Rock Mountain dragon, but it failed to inherit his father's blood, but became the Giant Rock Dragon clan with his mother. Enviably, Tidnik's mother Rock Dragon is still alive. He lived a leisurely retirement life with Tidnik's father at the end of the sea, and raised many creatures like snakes and giant turtles. Calculating the age, it is almost 10,000 years old. Are you going to train with your instructor? Listening to his son Hailong's report, his father Saint Dragon Leonard turned his eyes to look at his wife Takana, and an inexplicable meaning flashed in his pupils. Brother Reese. Yes. Hearing Leonard's voice, Brother Reese, who was thinking of refusing, suddenly tightened his heart and raised his head. Although I know you are very capable of doing things, the fright you have brought to me and your mother this time is too great, and I feel very horrified. Leonard said with a very headache. He looked at his brother Reese, whose body was almost comparable to his own, and he didn't know what he was muttering in his heart, but he was more happy. I don't want to. I also accidentally discovered that the pile of magic stones of the old rock dragon has a strong buff effect for me. Also, don't you remember the ability of the ancestor Black Dragon King? Godzilla tilted his head, indicating that he did not take the blame. Hey Emperor, indeed, if it is his old man, then everything is possible. Leonard thought for a while and said, it seems that the Black Emperor is full of various mysteries. Takana, what do you think? Leonard turned to ask his wife. It's hard to believe, but I think it's okay. Takana responded with a gentle tone. It's good to train with the instructors. After all, we really have nothing to teach you. You can't expect a holy dragon who is good at lightning magic to teach you how to summon thunder. Leonard shook his head and agreed. I see. Brother Reese sighed. It seemed that his parents didn't intend to protect him anymore, but directly threw it to the mentors for trusteeship. Well, Leonard withdrew his gaze, looked at the black dragon in front of him, and made a decision. Brother Reese Mirabo Reese-la, Leonard declared in a solemn tone. I, Leonard Militris, as the messenger of the Holy Dragon, Gesserand, admit that you have passed this trial of the young dragon. At the moment when Rhys got Leonard's approval, Brother Rhys felt his dragon scales glow slightly, as if his affinity for the element of thunder had increased. Brother Rhys. What is it, mother? Hearing Takana calling himself, Brother Rhys' heart was raised again. Maybe we won't be able to see each other for a whole year when we separate this time. Do you have anything to say to Wei Ya and Li Ai? Takana lowered her head absent-mindedly, and said to her brother Rhys. Leave something for my sister. Brother Rhys looked very distressed, thought about it carefully, and clasped something on his body with his claws. Then give them these 2 scales that belong to me. If they miss me, just look at the scales. All right. Takana froze for a moment, looked at her brother Rhys with strange eyes, but she didn't say anything. Besides, she sensed a magical power that highly activated the body cells from the 2 black dragon scales. It seems that if you stay close to these 2 scales for a long time, your physical fitness will also be enhanced. It may be negligible for an adult dragon, but for a young dragon, at least it can speed up the growth rate. Then let's put it this way. I still have to wait for the other young dragons to finish their trials, and then go directly to the dragon battle link. I will meet them again at that time. I don't know what will happen to the mentors after that. Quote. Brother Rhys stared at his paw tightly and said, I see, you have to accept the teacher's teaching carefully. Leonard nodded. He was used to a lazy life. And for giant dragons, their lives are very long, and many things can be delayed. On the contrary, compared with lazy adult dragons, vigorous young dragons are the most suitable training period. The strength of most dragons after they grow up is also closely related to their hard work in childhood. Then, I'll leave first. Father, mother, maybe next time we meet, I might grow taller. Brother Rhys said so, and walked towards the territory of the blue dragon mentor. He can't fly yet, so he can only go there on foot, and Leonard can't hold him to fly. To be honest, I still can't believe it. Mentors, they value our children so much. If what Brother Rhys said is true, then why? Leonard looked at the figure of his brother Rhys leaving, and muttered to himself. It's not just you, it's actually hard for me to believe it, but, this is the truth. Leonard, is your Dragon King ancestor a black dragon? Or does it just look like a black dragon? Takana stared at the 2 wrinkled, solid black dragon scales on her hands, and responded. How could I know this? If my father hadn't bragged to me when I was young, I wouldn't have known that the Black Emperor was my ancestor. I was shocked when I first heard it. Leonard looked at Takana and said, so he only heard that his ancestor was the Dragon King. Moreover, the Black Dragon King was combined with other dragon species, and the offspring of its descendants were combined with the Holy Dragon species. Until Leonard's generation, the genes had been diluted by an unknown number of times. Also, it happened thousands of years ago. Why did you suddenly return to your ancestors this time, and then, why is it Brother Rhys? Leonard looked up at the sky and whispered silently. He was very puzzled and confused. However, no one can answer him, and no one can say for sure about this matter. Even the Black Blood Dragon King, who specializes in dragon seed cells and plagues, can't give an accurate answer. But it should know something, because as the vampire dragon, the Black Blood Dragon King has seen the Black Emperor, and even has a little friendship. After a while, tick-tock, tick-tock, the growing little black dragon walked cautiously in the blue dragon's lair, as if no other creature had approached it for a long time. There were large and small stalagmites near the wall of the cave, dripping water bit by bit. The entire space is filled with huge magic power, and the rich water element is about to overflow. This place is obviously not a naturally formed territory. A certain powerful existence spontaneously attracted the magic power, and over time, it formed such a magnificent place. Scene. Brother Rhys carefully looked at the surrounding walls. The magic of this cave was so strong that it penetrated into the geological structure. If it takes a while, maybe a magic crystal mine will be formed underground. No, it is very likely that the magic crystal mine already exists. You are Brother Rhys, right? Master Norsandra is already waiting for you in the depths. You seem to be coming much later than the master expected. She may be a little angry. A trance-like melodious sound came from the black water pool in the cave, shaking Rhys' body. He hurriedly looked towards the place soaked in magic power, and found a humanoid, blue creature near the lake surface, color transparent creatures. What are you? A humanoid slime. Brother Reese looked at the creature in surprise, and his senses told him that this guy had no physical structure, but a purely magical creature. Slime. How rude. My name is Irene. I am a water element life form born of the huge magic power of Master Norsandna. I was ordered to wait here for a black dragon called Reese. The man-shaped translucent blue slime, who claimed to be a water element life form, said slightly angrily, which surprised Reese. Well, hello. I'm Brother Reese. Brother Reese whispered as he walked deeper. HMPH, please come with me. Don't be rude in front of Master Norsandra later. Not everyone can act recklessly like the Little Master. Little Master, Brother Reese asked curiously, are there any other baby dragons here? Ah, don't you know? The water elemental slime life form named Irene looked at Reese in surprise, and then said in confusion, Master Wenzani, the water dragon, is the great-great-great-great-great-granddaughter of Master Norsandna. She is a young man of the same period as you. Keelong, besides, you are also a black dragon of the lower dragon species, right? You should know each other. Brother Reese couldn't complain, and didn't know where to start answering. He thought for a while, and said in a deep voice, first of all, I am a black holy dragon. Secondly, I am a young dragon, not a young dragon. How is it possible? Although I am young and have only been born for more than 400 years, please don't deceive me. Irene looked disbelieving. She admitted that she was not as intelligent as the giant dragon in terms of race, but she had also learned a lot of knowledge from Master Norsandna after 400 years of accumulation. But I'm really only 1 year old. Brother Reese sighed. HMPH, you're really not honest at all. But it doesn't matter, anyway, I'm only responsible for taking you to see Master Norsandra, and the rest has nothing to do with me, and I won't bother you. Irene said that it doesn't matter, anyway, Master Norsandra will make a move. Irene, let him come over. Brother Reese, you don't seem to respect me at all, and you are so late. Is Gu Luo Damon's connivance making you so courageous? A high-pitched roar came from the deeper part of the cave, shaking the whole cave. If he didn't know that there was an ancient dragon inside, Reese might worry that he would be killed by some kind of terrifying existence. Mr. Norsandra, you know, I can't fly. So I wasted a lot of time on the road, but I have actually worked hard to hurry. Well, then it seems that I blamed you wrongly. However, upon hearing Brother Reese answer, the existence on the other side seemed completely disbelieving, and responded loudly. How could it be, Mentor, you have to trust me. Brother Reese said a little at a loss, but he didn't know what to do. This was what the great blue dragon Norsandra said on purpose. The purpose was to let him adapt to the next rigorous training in advance. Let's train the students with a gentle face. It turns out that this is to establish the majesty of the teacher. And just for a moment, Brother Reese has unknowingly walked to the deepest part of the cave. Going through the magical tunnel, Reese only felt his eyes light up. He subconsciously closed his eyes. After a few seconds, he slowly opened his eyes and looked around. Dragon Demon Barrier. In Brother Reese's vision, what appeared before him was a vast independent space. The surrounding rock walls are full of transparent magic crystals emitting faint light. These are all dragon crystals condensed from high-concentration magic power, which seem to be very attractive to the group of human beings called magicians. However, because it was formed the day after tomorrow, it is pure and flawless, showing a completely transparent state, and it is not mixed with tiny impurities like those formed underground. The magic crystals mined from the underground magic crystal mines are all translucent, so magicians who pursue purity prefer this pure and transparent magic crystal. Whether it is depicting a magic circle, or alchemy, or even simply absorbing magic power. These pure magic crystals are in short supply and priceless treasures. But these magical dragon crystals are just decorations in the room of the great blue dragon Norsandra, and it can even be said that they are derivatives born because of her existence, which is enough to show how huge the magic power is in the blue dragon instructor. Really envied the dragon. Brother Reese is a little sour. The hall composed of these huge magic crystals is extremely wide and huge. And the ceiling has been emitting light, it looks like it is daytime. Mentor, I don't know how you plan to train me. Brother Reese looked at a huge blue dragon nestled at the end of the vast independent space, and Norsandra seemed to be asleep without even opening her eyelids. Come here, come to me. The big blue dragon mentor replied in a low voice without raising his head. As long as you can, she said calmly. What? Brother Reese kept his gaze unchanged, and then took a step forward. The moment the soles of the feet fell, there was no sense of solidity as imagined, but fell into a deep pit in an instant, and fell badly. Brother Reese fell to the ground in pain, and before he could say anything, the light of the magic circle lit up under his buttocks, and the whole dragon was instantly transferred to the position of the entrance. What's going on? Seeing that she had suddenly returned to the starting point, the great blue dragon mentor Nuoshandina opened half of her eyes, and said with a teasing smile, "There are more than 3,000 complex magic circles in this square, but there is only one road leading to me. I don't care what method you use, whether you try hard or carefully sense the flow of magic power on the ground. As long as you can walk in front of me, I will teach you the secrets of the Blue Dragon clan. The strongest secret technique. Is it so dangerous?" Brother Reese immediately regretted it. He shouldn't be the first to come to the Blue Dragon mentor. But there is no way. It's all here, I guess it's too late to escape now. On the other side, it seems that he has sensed Reese's timid thoughts. The big blue dragon Nuoshandina said in a deep voice, "You have no way to turn back. Either you will be trapped here and starve to death, or you will rush in front of me. But you have to be careful when moving the magic circle. There are many magic traps here, and 3,000 of them. Multiple grids are constantly moving, and it is impossible to record a fixed route. By the way, flying is also not allowed. There is a magic circle that prohibits the air. Well, for you, it seems that you can't fly. Come on, hee." Hateful. Instructor Blue Dragon dared to laugh at himself. This is unbearable. Brother Reese felt a fire in his heart, then took a deep breath, closed his eyes and let out a low growl, and rushed forward. But as soon as he took a few steps, he was instantly attacked by wind blades, water arrows, and raging fire. Then he switched to magic and returned to the starting point in an instant. But what is humane is that at the starting point, there seems to be a healing magic circle. Brother Reese's injuries also slowly healed here, and he also recovered a little physical strength by the way, and was resurrected with full blood. I've said it before, you can't force your way, unless you are powerful enough to match my existence. The gaze of the great blue dragon instructor Norsandra stared at this side, staring directly at Brother Reese. Do you use all your resourcefulness to break through the level, or slowly perceive the changes in the magic power on the ground? Don't use your lack of magic as an excuse. Maybe a dragon doesn't have much magic power in its body, but it doesn't mean its senses are not sharp enough. The tone of the big blue dragon Norsandra remained unchanged, but suddenly froze in the next moment. What? I saw the little black dragon. Brother Reese closed his eyes, turned on the thermal radiation vision, and then bypassed several magic circles of fire and thunder attributes, walked a dozen steps on the ground, and then came to a field of ice attribute magic circles. In front of the array. Brother Reese was stunned for a moment. He looked at the ground in front of him with much lower heat than other places. After hesitating, he changed direction, avoided the ice-attributed magic circle, and stepped into the earth-attributed magic circle. Brother Reese fell into the huge pit again, and then switched to magic triggers to return to the starting point. Phew, you startled me. The mentor of the big blue dragon was stunned for a moment, then he asked back with a sigh of relief, I don't know what method you used to escape a few magic traps, but it seems that you can avoid all the traps. Hateful. Brother Reese lowered his head dejectedly, and the thermal radiation vision can only detect terrain with and without heat, but it cannot detect the magic circle with complex attributes. Is there no other way? Brother Reese sighed inwardly. Couldn't his eyes give him some strength to evolve a vision where he could see the flow of magic power? But it seems that every time I have evolved in the past, I need very harsh conditions. Like danger perception, yeah. If you can sense danger, you should be able to avoid a few traps with the slight vibration of the scales, right? But what about transfer magic? There is no sign of the transfer, and there is no danger. Isn't it unsolvable? Maybe he really can only calm down, as the big blue dragon instructor said, and try to perceive the magic patiently. Even if the total amount of magic power in the body cannot be increased, the perception ability will always grow. After all, if he encounters any dangerous large-scale magic trap in the future, he will suffer a lot. On the opposite side, the big blue dragon instructor stared at Brother Reese silently, sweating in his heart, and secretly thought, "You have to work harder, little guy, we don't have much time, only 3 months, and I have to put it away after 3 months you've been handed over to old rock dragon Nick." If Brother Reese is discouraged here, Norsandra will probably be worried about his next growth, because this level tests patience, will and careful sensitivity. Okay, let's break through. The huge black dragon cub slowly stood up and walked towards the direction of the magic trap. Its heavy body made the ground vibrate constantly as it walked, and then stepped on the magic trap. But instead of yelling, he closed his eyes. Constantly stepping on traps, constantly being eroded by magic, constantly moving back, running back before recovering from the healing magic circle and continuing to move forward. So repeated, so reckless, people are really confused. But only Brother Reese knows what he is doing in his heart. He keeps taking risks with his body in order to adapt his body to the strength of attacking magic and improve the magic resistance attribute. The reason for closing his eyes is to avoid being affected by various things. Everything that happens next is unknown and random. Only in this way can he develop the eyes of mind, because the magic power cannot be observed with the naked eye, but can only be sensed with the body. There is magic power in his blood, but the anti-magic property in the scales isolates the magic power. It is difficult for the outside magic power to enter the body, and it is also difficult for the magic power inside the body to escape. What should I do in this situation? In the process of being wounded and bleeding, Brother Reese discovered one thing, that is, his blood contains strong radiation. Whenever the dragon's blood splattered on the surrounding ground, even if he closed his eyes, he would can sense the radiation in the blood, so as to see where the blood drops. Then, if you leave a little bit of blood or other cell tissue on each magic trap, then the entire terrain under the earth will exist in your field of vision. And the only ones without blood are the transfer magic circle and normal ground. At that time, I just need to be more cautious. Maybe I can pass the level, because I avoided all the magic circles, and the probability of successfully walking a line will be higher. But is this really okay? How much blood would it take to record so many magic circles one by one? Can his body hold it up? Also, how long does it take to clear all the records? Days, or months, or years? Brother Reese didn't know which step he would make, but he felt that if he did nothing and stayed where he was, it would be the most wasteful way. He would rather be wrong than do nothing. Who is he? Great-grandmother, when did you bring the other dragons here? Just in the process of Brother Reese's continuous trial and error. A light blue young female, water dragon, who sensed the breath of a strange dragon species came here and asked an extremely huge blue dragon. His name is Brother Reese. When Shani, according to seniority, he should be your junior brother. The huge blue dragon slowly raised its neck, and blew a breath of magical wind into the venue, signaling the water dragon Wen Shani not to disturb him, but to come this way. Also, how long did it take you to pass through these 3,000 magic traps? Probably, about a year or two. Water dragon Wen Shani thought for a while and replied. Really? The blue dragon mentor Nuocean Dina pondered for a moment, and said, but he only has 3 months, no matter whether he clears the level or not, he has to leave. 3 months. The water dragon, Wen Shani, was stunned for a moment, and then she couldn't help laughing. Are you kidding? You want to break all the magic traps in 3 months? Great-grandmother, are you joking? With him, a black dragon. He is not a black dragon, but a holy dragon. The blue dragon mentor looked deeply at his brother Reese, and murmured, if he has the gene of the holy dragon in his body, it will probably be easier to awaken the magic power perception. The black, holy dragon. The water dragon Wen Shani looked at Norsandna as if she didn't seem to be joking, and she also fell silent. I don't remember that among the dragons of the same age, there is a guy named Brother Reese. Could it be that he is one class earlier than me? But why is it so important? Learn magic. No, he's younger than you. As for learning magic, to be precise, what he wants to learn is how to see through magic. For a giant dragon who is not good at magic, it can be said to be a magical skill. If the magic dragon is ready to use magic, it can see through the opponent's magic type, power, and direction of impact. For a black dragon that is good at fighting, that is simply cheating. Can crush all magic dragons of the same age, unless the opponent's strength and experience are far greater than themselves. What a queer guy. The water dragon Wen Shani stared at the figure of her brother Reese, and seemed to be looking at him a little bored, wondering why this guy kept looking for abuse every time he was covered in bruises and did not go to treatment. Did he want to commit suicide? 1711.1721. Reese, the brother who stayed in the magic trap, didn't pay attention to the conversation between the water dragon Winsani and the blue dragon instructor. He closed his eyes, and only had the magic trap stained with his own blood in his mind. Why can the magic dragon clearly perceive the flow of magic power? What exactly is magic? How is it different from radiation? These three questions have puzzled Reese for a long time. The instinct from the depths of his heart told him that magic power is a trace element like oxygen and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. During the breathing process of living beings, the magic power in the air will pass through the nasal cavity, larynx, trachea, and bronchi to reach the lungs. So what is the organ that stores magic power? It is said that human magicians need to concentrate on meditation to perceive the corresponding magic particles in the atmosphere. Then, under the guidance of the spirit, the magic particles that flow to the material world are concentrated according to the nature of the magic flow, and then they are manipulated to create different magic in the form of their appearance in the material world. What about dragons? No, why should I study the principle of magic? That's smelly and long like a math formula. Brother Reese thought to himself that what he wanted to learn was not to use magic, but to observe the flow of magic. He doesn't need to let himself learn mathematical formulas, but he only needs to know the numbers. As long as he can tell at a glance what is the number and what is the number, it is considered a success. If it's just 723, it's really much simpler. The crisis perception ability of giant dragons is regardless of species. Whether they are good at magic or not, their perception of crisis is the same. Brother Reese thought of this in his heart, and immediately understood what he needed to do. However, I didn't seem to notice this at the beginning. Is it because I was too nervous, thus ignoring my innate talent? If it weren't for the magic trap here, I really wouldn't have noticed it myself. Brother Reese felt the magic power flowing faster in his body and the heart beating more violently, and opened his eyes suddenly. Shua. After opening his eyes again, everything in front of him suddenly became clear. He knows what to do. He shouldn't be trying to understand what the magic is. Magic is a kind of instinct. You will always know it. No matter how much you learn, you will never learn it. Because this is not a question of effort, but a question of body structure. Therefore, what Brother Reese did was that he didn't need to learn by himself, and left everything to the variant dragon G cells. Because thermal radiation vision is like this, it was developed by Reese cells independently. The purpose is to facilitate him to find radioactive ores and other similar substances, because body cells need this kind of energy to grow. Whether it's a system or a mutated cell. ACAC, you all must evolve for me today, or you will die here. Brother Reese thought of this in his heart, suddenly raised his head to look at the blue dragon mentor, and shouted, "Teacher, can you please cancel the healing magic circle? Also, the water dragon over there, please be my opponent. Use your to attack me with all my magic, and beat me to death." After the loud rant was over, Reese hardened himself. If you don't push yourself, you will never know where your limit is. Besides, his battle cells need to be stimulated to become stronger, and the attack magic of the ordinary magic circle can no longer cause effective damage to himself with increased magic resistance, and stronger attack magic is necessary. Only then can the cells perceive the threat posed by magic. In order to adapt to the environment, they had to be forced to evolve the visual ability to see through all magic power and all illusions. So, cells either evolve or die here. With a slight movement of his thoughts, Brother Reese showed a cruel smile. Is he crazy at last? The water dragon Wen Shani looked at the Brother Reese, who suddenly yelled in shock, and wanted to attack him by herself, which is completely desperate. What, great-grandmother, am I going to attack him? The mentor of the big blue dragon narrowed his eyes, not knowing what he was thinking. After a long time, she nodded. Go, Wen Shani. Don't show mercy. With me here, he won't die easily. Then I won't be polite. After getting the permission, the water dragon Wen Shani showed a militant smile, and the dreamy dragon wings like a water curtain unfolded instantly. She jumped into the sky and flew into the sky, shouting loudly, "My name is Wen Shani." Arrogant and conceited, Black Dragon, I will be your opponent next. Come on, Winzani, use your most powerful magic, don't make me look down on you. Brother Reese responded provocatively, then gritted his teeth, determined to resist all subsequent attacks. Okay, that's what you said. Then, respond to me, the most violent force in the world, the earth-shattering tsunami and landslide, destroy the stupid dragon in front of you, the roar of the sea dragon. In an instant, the scales all over Reese's body trembled violently, as if feeling a fatal crisis. Winzani, seeing that the great-granddaughter directly used some powerful high-ranking magic like a big move, the blue dragon mentor quickly reminded. I know, great-grandmother, I have my measure. After the words of the water dragon Wenshani, the rising spiral water turned into a violent water elemental sea dragon that destroyed everything, making a roar that shook everything and rushed towards the black dragon Brother Reese. So, Brother Reese suddenly closed his eyes, as if he was constantly warning himself in his heart, dodge, dodge, if you can't dodge, you will die. His dragon scales were trembling crazily, as if foretelling the coming of danger. But his brain issued an order not to act, while his trembling body kept protesting. The cells seemed to diverge from his thoughts, and they confronted and quarreled with each other. At the moment when the sea dragon's roar is about to arrive, it tightly closed its eyes, emptied its brain completely, and handed everything over to its instincts. If it was their own body, if it was their own cells, what would they do? ... Live, let me live. I want to see it, or I see it, without eyes. Roar. At the moment when he instinctively let out an unwilling roar, a vague light appeared in Reese's mind and roared towards him, and it miraculously raised its tail, changed its center of gravity, tensed all its muscles instantly, and instinctively leaned back. Brother Reese turned sideways abruptly before Sea Dragon's roar arrived. Even if he didn't escape the attack range of Sea Dragon's roar, he tried his best to protect his core, so that he was seriously injured but not dead. Boom! The berserk Sea Dragon was like a tens of millions of tons of tsunami impact. Brother Reese felt a devastating force that tore his body apart. He was like a wooden boat that was instantly smashed to pieces by the huge waves and flew directly into the air. He went out, rolled embarrassingly on the ground, and hit the wall together with the water. 1 second, 2 seconds. Dozens of seconds passed, and the seriously injured black dragon who fell motionless on the ground suddenly opened his eyes. Passing by with death, the feeling of surviving after a catastrophe made Reese's eyes widen, showing fear, and now after being violently impacted by the sea dragon, even its tail trembled slightly. However, at the moment of life and death, a message did flash through his mind. You have unlocked the new skill, Death Prediction. Death Prediction. When facing the danger of a fatal blow, your body will instinctively protect the heart and other parts, and try to resist with all your strength. Even when you are asleep, your body enters a state of passive defense. It worked. Although it is not the vision that can see through all magic, at least this method is feasible. Sure enough, people know, if dragons don't push themselves, they will never know where their limits are. Mutated dragon cell. Beast, are you still a human host? Even your own body is going to die. Aha, ahahaha, I did it. Just when the water dragon Wenshani was worried about whether she would kill the black dragon by mistake, a near-crazy laughter suddenly sounded in her ears, pulling her back from her thoughts. She looked towards the direction where the sound came from. The stunned black dragon who was seriously injured but still got up tenaciously. The other party was slowly raising his head, showing a creepy smile to himself with a bloody face. Great-grandmother. It's really crazy. Hell, it won't rely on me in the future. The water dragon Wenshani backed up, flapping her wings as if she had seen a ghost. She had never seen such a crazy dragon. Did she have some kind of masochism? No, Wenshani, maybe this kid realized something at that moment just now. Curiosity flickered in the blue dragon teacher's eyes, although she didn't know what Brother Reese did, but at the last moment he seemed to avoid Hailong's roar. He could do this at such a dangerous moment, should I say luck or stupidity? But it is undeniable that this kid has a miracle. He is different from any dragon species I have ever seen. In short, if the fighting method is feasible, then you can train with him until he clears the level. No, 560, leave. The blue dragon mentor gave an order to the water dragon Wenshani. Ah, great-grandmother, are you kidding me? Why should I waste time here with him? Are you against me, Winzani? The eyes of the big blue dragon mentor instantly focused on the water dragon Wen Shani, and a huge pressure made the latter calm down. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was too reckless. Well, I will accompany him and practice a little bit. When talking about the latter, the water dragon Wen Shani gritted her teeth a bit, and looked at the black dragon resentfully, as if she blamed him for arousing the curiosity of her great-grandmother, forcing herself to stay here as a coolie. That being the case, then teach this guy a good lesson. Let him retreat and leave early. After all, why would a black dragon with no magical talent stay here to waste time? Winzani big sister, thank you very much, can I trouble you to perform the one just now? Brother Reese seemed very excited and completely forgot about the pain in his body. Big sister, the water dragon, Wen Shani, glared at her brother Reese angrily, and said angrily, you obviously look the same age as me, but you are only a few years younger, and you still call me big sister. It's too much. Brother Reese calmed down a lot after being yelled at by the other party, and then said silently, then how old are you? I'm only 78 years old this year, and I'm still a young dragon. I don't think I'm an adult until 100 years old. Oh, Brother Reese didn't answer immediately, but turned his head and said to the blue dragon instructor. It's just her, mentor. I want her to be my partner. The more violent this old woman is, the better. Only then can I continue to break through in battle, and thus awaken my perception of magic power in danger. Is this your way, Brother Reese? The big blue dragon instructor closed his eyes slightly, and then showed a terrible smile. Interesting, so interesting. It seems that my training method is still too gentle. If that is the case, then you should keep fighting with Wen Shani in the magic trap. I will cancel part of the healing magic circle and give you enough pressure. Thank you, tutor. Brother Reese seemed to be ready to die, and then looked at the fire-breathing water dragon Wen Shani. Okay, big sister, now we can start. He, you guys have a lot of guts, you're more kind than some guys I've seen. The water dragon Wen Shani said as if baring her fangs, she could hardly suppress the anger in her heart. Poor child, you may have a hard time in the future. Hearing Brother Reese's provocative words to Wen Shani, even the big blue dragon mentor looked at him with sympathy. Never offend a female giant dragon, she secretly said in her heart. Brother Reese also seemed to sense something bad. But he has no regrets. High-intensity pressure is necessary to make the cells grow rapidly. The so-called monster cells need such continuous stimulation in order to continuously evolve to the state of invincible. Boom. After a period of time, the entire blue dragon giant was filled with strong water elemental power. Suddenly, there was a suffocating sense of crisis. The terrifying sea dragon roared and rolled in the raging waves, madly attacking a black dragon that was trying to dodge with its eyes closed tightly, and surrounded it. Feeling the dominance of the water element, the black dragon also raised its head and let out a roar. These days, he has been under high-intensity magical bombardment. After being provoked many times, the water dragon, Wen Shani, also ran away. Brother Reese, it seems that the past few days have allowed you to live too comfortably. See if I won't break your bones today. That is a beautiful giant dragon with deep blue wings, but possesses destructive power like raging waves. When Black Dragon Brother Reese started today's training and entered the battle area, a huge tsunami rushed towards his face, and the opening was high energy. Water cannon. Weak water field. The roar of the sea dragon. Then, under the watchful eyes of Brother Reese, the dark blue wings of the water dragon spread out, tearing the water vapor, emitting a faint blue light, and then the dragon wings flapped, and huge waves roared in. Do you just like being abused by me so much? Or are you still unwilling to admit defeat? Hearing the roar of the water dragon, Brother Reese was about to respond when he was swept by huge waves in the next second. A huge tsunami came under pressure, and Reese's body was forced to bend down, cutting the waves with his sharp dorsal fin like a sword, and then the roar and impact submerged him in the huge waves. High-pressure water cannon. The roaring noise shook the cave, and the water surface collapsed and turned into a whirlpool. Water rush. The irascible water dragon Wen Shani summoned the water element surf, turned into a sharp arrow and flew towards the black dragon, hitting the back. Water whirlpool. Roar. Brother Reese, who was in the water element field, let out a roar, and his voice was mixed with manic domineering. Don't admit defeat, right? Also, why haven't you fought back? How arrogant. Even if you let me fight like this, you still refuse to fight back. It seems that what really made the water dragon Wen Shani so angry was that no matter how much the black dragon allowed him to attack, he refused to fight back. If you continue like this, you will really die. The angry voice of the water dragon Wen Shani came from above the tsunami. She circled in midair, and let out a loud roar. At this time, there was a dragon roar in the deep water, and Risa's dorsal fin was surrounded by blue lightning anytime and anywhere, and the spines on his back, the horns of the falcon dragon, the center of the dragon, and the whole body were emitting blue light. Finally can't help but fight back. The water dragon, Winzani, seemed a little excited, but she soon became even more annoyed when she saw that the lightning was suppressed by her brother Reese. HMPH, even if it's like this, you still refuse to make a move. Well, I'm really angry too. I'm going to come up with my ultimate move, and this time it's going all out. Sea dragons roar. At this time, there was another whistling sound, and a large amount of icy sea water fell from the sky. With the sound of the dragon piercing through the air, the water dragon Wenzani flickered and shuttled above the head of Reese, and a terrifying storm wave was set off from behind. Countless water elements turned into spiral sea currents like the end of the day, continuously ascending to the sky, heading towards Wenzani, gathering away in the direction of the sea dragon. It turned into the shape of a huge sea dragon. Are you completely angry? It seems that this move can't be resisted. In the mind of Brother Reese, even if he closes his eyes, he can perceive a large amount of water elements around him. At this time, he is deeply trapped in the whirlpool and surrounded by the current. In the perception in my mind, high-intensity water element magic particles gathered above the space, and its power exceeded the sum of the previous water attribute magic. In this environment with abundant water elements, the power contained in it is naturally needless to say. Although Brother Reese has a high resistance to water attributes, it doesn't mean that he can easily take over this kind of powerful destructive magic. Go all out, you can't resist. Since this is the case, I hope that my current strength can help me end all this. Brother Reese seems to have blocked everything in the next blow, starting from the tip of his tail, the dorsal fin, thorns, dragon horns and mouth all flashed blue lightning, as if endless thunder energy gathered, and at the same time a wave of high temperature came from rise in the core. With the black dragon as the center of 1.3, the high temperature makes the surrounding water elements start to boil. A large amount of water vapor continues to evaporate. HMPH. Can't bear it at last. But it's too late. The ultimate water dragon magic, the roar of the sea dragon king. The sky has changed color. To be precise, at the moment when the huge sea dragon appeared, the endless water elements turned into a dark blue sky. At the same time, a huge magic circle appeared in the three directions of Winzani's wings, head, and chest, and then the phantom of the sea dragon king rolled in it. With its long body, sharp claws, and majestic face, it doesn't look like an ordinary dragon. Roar high high high. The roar of the sea dragon king swooped down from a high altitude with the momentum of destroying the world, and carried out the final destruction towards Black Dragon Brother Reese. The moment of victory and defeat has come. I can finally use this trick with all my strength. Ahahaha. The water dragon, Wen Shani, let out a morbid roar, as if seeing the scene where her brother Reese was ruthlessly knocked down to the ground and completely lost consciousness. But at that instant, the bottom of the water evaporated. The sudden and appalling high temperature rises sharply. This extreme high temperature may originate from the core of the power generated by Brother Reese, the biological atomic furnace. Facing the attack of the roaring sea dragon king. A sudden terrifying high temperature rises on the site. This extreme high temperature comes from the power generated by the core of the black dragon, biological atomic furnace. Dragon's breath, endless lightning energy, lightning white hot light. The next moment, facing the oncoming roar of the sea dragon king, Brother Reese opened his mouth and spit out a huge high-energy blue-black lightning beam in his mouth. At the moment of releasing the breath, a magical circle appeared in the front of its mouth, halo. And under this magical halo, Reese iconic, lightning white hot light, is strengthened to a terrifying level. The scale of its lightning is several times larger than before, and the endless thunder energy, black lightning, released can evaporate everything. I don't know if it was because the thunder and lightning restrained the water element. The breath beam easily tore apart the sea dragon king's roar, directly penetrated the water flow and hit the water dragon Wen Shani, who was releasing magic. The sudden explosion of terrifying power instantly knocked down Wen Shani from high altitude to the ground, making a heavy impact sound. Hoa! After the fall, Wen Shani felt the pain in her body, and when the O2 rage was surging in her heart, a heart-piercing pain came from the wing bone of the dragon wing, and the power of the dark thunder and lightning penetrated into the bone marrow like a maggot on the tarsus bone, let the water dragon's body surface continue to flicker with terrible electric arcs, and its body twitches constantly. No matter how she rolled and struggled, she couldn't stand up in a short time. As if avenging the previous revenge, Brother Reese exhaled full of anger, but he poured all his magic power into it, and the endless thunder energy, black lightning, that just merged with the exhalation as his blood and vitality as a holy dragon. All have an affinity for thunder and lightning. Yes, just at that moment, Brother Reese released the magic. This also seems to be the strength he gained from training during this time. This moment, as the pair of ferocious eyes on the black dragon's head opened completely, a weak arc flickered in the bright golden pupils, and then moved from top to bottom, locked firmly on the body of the water-beat dragon. Facing such gazes, the body of Wen Shani, who fell on the ground, trembled again, as if she had seen something terrifying. The black dragon, still maintaining its dragon breath posture, looked at the fallen water dragon Wen Shani with distaste, with flames in its mouth, and the rest of the electric light flickering on its dorsal fin, as if a more terrifying light would light up in its throat at any time. You still don't know the second characteristic of the upper dragon species, Brother Reese said in a calm tone, and cast a glance at Wen Shani. This line of sight is extremely aggressive. It made Wen Shani feel a little uncomfortable, and took a step back in fear. Could it be that you're really a black, holy dragon? Are you scared? Brother Reese looked at Wen Shani calmly, and the other party couldn't help but shrink back. No, how is it possible? How could I be afraid of a guy like you? Wen Shani's voice tightened, as if she felt some kind of oppression. She flapped her dragon wings hastily, and got up after the paralyzing effect of thunder and lightning ended. You should still worry about yourself. The Sea Dragon King's roar won't be so easily dissipated. Go, it's more like summoning magic than attack magic. That's not necessary anymore. Brother Reese remained unmoved, allowing the body to be impacted back and forth by the water element, destroying its body. What's going on? Why do you still look okay after enduring so many attacks? All right. How could it be all right? But I am suffering the pain of being torn and healed every moment. But this kind of pain cannot be shown, because it was proposed by myself, and thanks to this hell-style training, I finally found a way to become stronger. Since your magic is to control the water element, then I will evaporate all the water. As the water flow recondensed into the shape of the Sea Dragon King, Brother Reese ignored Wen Shani's shocked inquiry, but opened his mouth and continued to breathe into the water flow below him. When a violent high-temperature beam erupted from its mouth, the visible air waves fluctuated in the air, and the ground quickly evaporated. Boom! Breath continues to release. The high-temperature dragon's breath began to spread towards the earth in all directions. Brother Reese's body also rapidly heated up and turned red, and the dorsal fin exuded a blood-like light, as if it was about to burn. Light it up, my blood. At this moment, the blood of the dragon that was scattered on the ground by Brother Reese not long ago burned up one after another, turning into devastating energy and dyeing the nearby sky a scorching crimson red, and the thermal radiation fluctuation of extreme violence is also ready. Diffuse. Then, end everything. Such a huge momentum naturally attracted the attention of the big blue dragon instructor. She was shocked to see the blood flame light on the nearby magic circle trap. This is the strongest range skill of Reese, the Black Saint Dragon, Heat Radiation Diffusion. Originally, this move was a power that only Crimson Godzilla could use. Through the radiation in the body, the heat radiation was turned into a super scorching shock wave to damage everything around, and the earth and sky were covered by hundreds of thousands of degrees of high temperature in an instant. But because Brother Reese left his own dragon blood all over the place before, it is now ignited through its breath, just like a nuclear fission chain reaction, and the intense radiation in the blood exploded instantly. In an instant, endless ferocious flames spread out along with the explosion, the terrifying heat spread outward, the air was swallowed, the light was oppressed and distorted, and there was a buzzing sound and dazzling glare. What? The big blue dragon teacher's dragon eyes flickered in astonishment. he looked up at the black dragon brother Reese, who was in the center of the burning flames, and slowly stood up, then stepping on the flames towards him 10 steps at a time. Under its feet, all the magic circle traps were destroyed in an instant. Seeing this scene, even the water dragon Wen Shani couldn't help raising her head, staring blankly at the back of the domineering black dragon bathed in a sea of flames. Bang bang bang. The 3,000 magic circle began to disintegrate with the footsteps of the burning black dragon. The big blue dragon mentor watched this scene dumbfounded. When she woke up suddenly, she found that her student was already close to her. Although he is extremely weak at the moment. Mentor, I succeeded. Like ripples on the surface of the water, Brother Reese dragon pupils shone with steel will, becoming sharper and more compelling than ever. The magic power no longer flows around his body, but drifts around him as if there is nothing, and his firm eyes reflect an indescribable luster. Eye of breaking demons, your eyes can see through all magic and all illusions. Dragon blood explosion, your blood contains violent energy, which will release a terrifying explosion after being ignited by high temperature. The magic elimination pulse, generated by the explosion, can eliminate part of the magic effect. Magic elimination pulse, the pulse can invalidate the magic circle and golem, and cause a silence effect on the warlock who is releasing magic, causing its magic power to backfire. Currently, it can only be triggered by detonating the dragon's blood, and the specific range depends on the thickness of the dragon's blood. The great wings of the old age are a thing of the past, and a new law is about to be born. From now on, the protagonist begins to gradually gain power, and the strongest dragon species in history is about to be born. Closing parenthesis. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.